Chapter 1183. The previously silent mountain range began to grow noisy 3 days ago. The Leviathan Empire, which is closest to the Central Mountains, sent a delegation of over 10,000 members, led by Ludwig XII himself, to the Sky Tower where the underground cemetery is located. Is this the miraculous structure that person wants to build? Teacher, does that madman really want to break through the sky? Is this not a funny joke at all? It doesn't make me laugh. Ludwig XII, who was once just a step away from uniting the mainland, couldn't sleep well all week. His eyes were filled with madness and unwillingness, carrying a dangerous aura. We don't have enough data, but this tower is truly something that has never been recorded in history before. If the goal of the King of Undead is truly the night sky, then this tower is truly a miracle. Poinkar, an imperial sage, looked excitedly at the miraculous structure called the Babylon Sky Tower before him. The trembling of his hands represented that his emotions were even more intense than they appeared. Sympathy and understanding, perhaps this is the feeling that only humans standing at the pinnacle of the pyramid of wisdom can have. Looking at the architectural structure, this is simply not feasible. Asmid, an alchemical warlock and craftsman, drew this conclusion based on his professional habits. No matter how you look at it, the architectural structure of this tower is not normal at all. The foundation cannot support a tower that reaches over 10,000 meters. This tower should have completely collapsed halfway through its construction. And how was this length of tower hidden underground? The lower half of the tower has even reached the mantle layer, you know. Don't look at Dad's masterpiece with mortal wisdom. Princess Past floated in front of Poinkar and Asmid, puffing up her chest. This is something that Dad's divine era already completed, and it's only halfway built now. In a little while, this Babylon Sky Tower will be even taller and bigger. Poinkar took a deep breath and looked at the towering tower. Indeed, compared to when it first appeared in the world, this tower called the Babylon Sky Tower has increased in height. According to the information collected by the Leviathan Empire, over 1 million undead armies are continuously excavating from all over the world and transporting supplies to these central mountains. Even now, you can see a large number of undead soldiers carrying crystal-like refined substances, shuttling through the construction site below the tower. Occasionally, skeleton soldiers would fall from above 10,000 meters in the sky, crashing into pieces with a snap. However, with the incantations of nearby liches, they quickly stood up and continued walking into the tower's interior. Judging from the constantly increasing number of undead entering the tower, the size of the tower's interior must be much larger than it appears, a true architectural marvel. No wonder, after the Divine Era War ended, the precious minerals on the continent disappeared so much. They were all taken away by the underground cemetery. Some records that didn't match the Divine Era are now becoming clear in Poinkar's calculations. Even the reason why the underground cemetery conquered the world can be easily deduced. They collected resources with maximum efficiency, without changing the political systems of each country. The King of Undead didn't need the submission of humans, only the resources of this world. Conquering the world was just a preparation for collecting resources. The Leviathan Empire really had bad timing, encountering such a monstrous opponent. Conquer the world just for this reason? Ludwig XII's expression as he looked at the Tower of Heaven was not right. Only to build this incredible tower, they conquered the whole world and used the world's resources to complete this task. How arrogant. What a mess. It turns out, having great power truly allows one to do whatever they want. If I had such power too, Ludwig XII tightly clenched his fist, with a dangerous gleam in his eyes, growing stronger by the moment. Father. A familiar voice startled Ludwig XII. It was not the voice of a member of his Leviathan envoy. Roland, Ludwig XII looked at his daughter with a complex expression. She had been sent as a hostage to the Seer Kingdom's princess. Originally, she had been considered a pawn in Ludwig XII's plan, sent as compensation for the war to the Seer Kingdom. She can be seen as a princess knight belonging to the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order or a noble, but both are considered pawns discarded by Ludwig XII. Being under 18 and a female, no matter how talented, as long as they are not hero-ranked knights, they can be abandoned by Ludwig XII. Who would have thought that this princess, considered as a cast-off, would persistently achieve the promotion to hero ranked within the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order and take hold of her own destiny. Now, as an advanced hero-ranked knight, she is no longer a pawn that Ludwig XII can sacrifice at will. In theory, as a member of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, she no longer has a direct affiliation with the Leviathan Empire. The current Princess Roland no longer belongs to the Leviathan Empire. Roland herself understands this. Ever since she left the Leviathan Empire and became a member of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, there is no going back. Seer Kingdom, how fortunate. Why don't we have such powerful guardians? As the only exceptional kingdom in the Underground Cemetery conquest plan, Seer Kingdom is the world's only remaining independent nation. In other countries, the kings are supposed to be the highest leaders, but they are all actually controlled by the Lich. These Liches, who used to be divine era mags, know very well how to rule the country and become the masters of everyone. It can be anticipated that soon after the Liches take control of all the highest power, the kings will become puppets, only existing as mascots. If we also had such power. Ludwig XII's nails dug deep into his flesh. He was not convinced, and didn't admit this fact. It would be great if Seer Kingdom's guardian could fight Underground Cemetery to a draw, or even destroy each other. For Leviathan Empire, reaping the benefits without doing anything is the best outcome. Unfortunately, things didn't unfold as he had imagined. The mysterious guardian of Seer Kingdom actually made peace with Underground Cemetery. Traitors of mankind, you shouldn't fight against each other, shouldn't you fight until the last drop of blood? Why did you reach a settlement, letting this world lose hope to resist the King of Undead? Chapter 1184 Father, the war has ended. Despite being an abandoned child, Roland could still understand the current feelings of the Emperor who was renowned as the Conqueror. Once, Leviathan Empire was only one step away from conquering the continent. She also once believed that Leviathan Empire would dominate this era. However, the turning point of fate always comes so suddenly. The appearance of the forbidden spell of nuclear explosion. The return of the Underground Cemetery, and the war that decided the fate of the world. The Leviathan Empire became the biggest loser, while the Underground Cemetery became the winner. The choice made by the Seer Kingdom was the last straw that broke the camel's back. What Ludwig XII hoped for, the final battle between the Guardian of Seer Kingdom and the Underground Cemetery, where the whole Seer Kingdom fought until their last drop of blood, and the situation of the Underground Cemetery's forces being greatly depleted didn't occur. If the ruler of Seer Kingdom was still Ludwig XII's dear friend, the king who led the Royal Knight Corps and the Empire's first Magic Army Legion into battle, perhaps he would really do it. Ain, Adley's father, was the one who held on to the traditions and knightly honor of Seer Kingdom until the end. Even if facing an unbeatable enemy, he would fight until the last breath. This was what Ludwig XII expected, exactly this kind of outcome. However, his former dear friend had already been killed by his own first Magic Army Legion. The new queen of Seer Kingdom, Ain, had a vision beyond the world and firmly believed that the magnificent silver dragon would bring about a whole new change. She went beyond racial limitations and created a brand new group called the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. It was this unique Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, consisting of multiple races, that made the decision. United by a magical coincidence, they had a vision that went beyond the discrimination and prejudice widely seen among nations. Since even companions of different races could accept each other, everyone was bathed in the glorious light of the mighty and sacred silver dragon. Naturally, they all had the same hopes for the future as the silver dragon. Yunshi felt there was no need to continue fighting, and they could sense Yunshi's hope, so they made the same choice. Ludwig XII's anticipation for a fierce battle between Seer Kingdom's Guardian and Underground Cemetery was completely shattered. The scenario where both sides would fight to the last drop of blood and the last bullet vanished. Upon encountering the past princess and the soul core of the war dancer, Yunshi realized that the King of Undead was not evil, and their goal seemed to be anything but destruction and world annihilation. Therefore, there was no longer a need for a fight to the bitter end. Kingdom's Shield discovered this and made the decisive decision to send out the Constellation God's weapons. They successfully convinced Yunshi, making Seer Kingdom the only exception in this world-conquering war. This exception is based on the condition that Yunshi defeated the Black Iron Giant, Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, and Rift Space Dragon, and showcased his own strength. On the other hand, Leviathan Empire's plan to profit from the chaos completely failed. This made Ludwig XII unable to hate and unwilling to accept it. Now, return to the Empire, my daughter. Knowing the news of Roland advancing to hero ranked, Ludwig XII regretted it a long time ago. No one could have expected that in just over a month of joining the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, Roland crossed the barrier from ordinary to hero ranked. In the current period of declining magical tide, the difficulty of becoming hero ranked is unimaginable. The magically infused plants that were common in the past divine era have become increasingly scarce, and even the medicinal potions provided by the royal family are decreasing. Even for geniuses like Roland, the probability of becoming a hero-ranked knight is extremely slim. It can be said that it's like gambling luck, and that's why Ludwig XII gave up on her. The princess who is not yet 18 years old and is not a hero-ranked knight is destined to be a political pawn for marriage alliances, and can be discarded at any time. Not everyone can be like the king and queen of Seer Kingdom, who are siblings and childhood sweethearts. They are simply a perfect match destined to feed others with their love. He had many offspring, and even though he was young and strong, he had several lovers and illegitimate children outside. Some of them were just as talented as Roland, but since Aine needed Roland as a hostage, she had to give up on him. That Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order thing, Ludwig XII was always seen as a joke from the beginning. Sorry, father, I have already joined the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Since that day, there's no going back, Roland shook his head. She had understood long ago that she had been abandoned by her father. The wise and mighty emperor, he didn't care about one of his daughters. All he had in his eyes was conquering the world. Whether it was him or the Leviathan Empire, they had already become an unstoppable war machine. If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of the underground cemetery, the Leviathan Empire would probably have started preparing to conquer the seas and other continents by now. The Leviathan Empire, driven by its scientific governance, is so aggressive because of its unlimited demand for resources. It's an inevitable result. The Conquer the World plan made by Imperial Sage Poinkar for Ludwig XII has proven to be truly effective. His own father, who had long been obsessed and unable to detach himself from this plan, never once cared about his own growth. For the great emperor, children were just carriers of the empire's inheritance. Ludwig XII, who is still youthful and powerful and will not abdicate the world stage for several decades, would never be willing to exit in this way. Roland, who once thought this was only natural, no longer sees it that way. Because, in the tall tower of the divine era, she encountered a presence even greater than her own father. In her heart, the mad conquer-the-world plan of the Leviathan Empire is no longer the only thing. Now she can be certain that the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is the future of the world, and the hope of Seer. Whether it's the Leviathan Empire or the underground cemetery, they cannot compare to the future Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. So, she wants to tell her father now, to give up. Father, please don't pursue that ambition anymore. The world is no longer the same as before. This was Roland's final warning. She vaguely felt that something was off with her father. He had become more extreme and dangerous compared to her impression of him. Yes, the world has changed. Some things have also changed. Ludwig XII held his forehead and burst into uncontrollable laughter. Black specks appeared silently in his eyes. Chapter 1185. Inside the Tower of Heaven, climbing the stairs that led closer to the endless starry sky. Yunshi curiously looked around at the supplies being continuously lifted up vertically, along with those tireless skeleton undead. Putting aside their outer appearance prejudice towards the undead, these skeletons are truly outstanding workers. Working non-stop for 24 hours, they don't need wages, food, or rest and entertainment. As long as orders are given, these undead will work until the end of the world. The interior of the entire tower has a large number of structures similar to the Divine Era Tower in the Seer Kingdom. The same huge space. The same complex stairs. The magic concentration is also beyond the normal level. Except for not being able to see the garden and fairy butterflies, this is an enlarged and heightened Divine Era Tower, and it's still in an unfinished stage. The owner of this tall tower is the ancient king of undead. Yun Shi is the guest who was invited by the king of undead. The 8 constellation gods' weapons and the owner of the underground cemetery are waiting for Yun Shi at the top of the tower. This is a meeting prepared by the kingdom's shield for Yun Shi, and it is also the first time the legendary king of undead has met with someone from outside the underground cemetery since its return. Prince Ash from the Seer Kingdom, the last remaining dragon race on the continent. Yun Shi carries both of these identities at the same time and is about to meet the legendary king of undead. From the words of the past princess and the war dancer, Yun Shi roughly depicted the outline of the king of undead. This is a legendary magician who excels in research and academia. The ancient weapons he created far exceeded the civilization level of Seer's world. The golden ancient people, who symbolize the origin of humans in Seer's world, were the true friends of this king. It was because of their downfall that the king of undead stepped onto the battlefield and determined the outcome of that war. The Rift Space Dragon, a ultimate weapon used by the dragon tribe to explore the stars, was personally shot down by the king of undead, who is still in its development stage. Powerful and mysterious. Wise and steady. Emotional but not good at socializing. With lofty ideals, he has always been down-to-earth in his efforts towards this goal, never giving up. This is the impression that Yun Shi has gained after combining the perspectives of past princess, war dancer, and kingdom's shield, regarding the king of undead. Now, he is only a door away from this legendary king. The highest floor of Babylon Sky Tower, surrounded by constantly under construction floating floors, can be said to be the tallest place in the whole world. Yun Shi stands in front of the grand gate engraved with history. The outline of the 12 constellation gods' weapons is clearly carved on this gate, as if commemorating their lost friends, benefactors, and lovers. Surrounding the 12 constellation gods' weapons is a broader and more detailed sky of stars, which is the dream and lifelong goal of the king of undead. Now, this goal has finally reached its most crucial moment. In order to achieve it, the king of undead agreed to the request of Kingdom's shield and gifted the precious constellation gods' weapons and Seer Kingdom's independence rights to Yun Shi. "Come in, sacred silver dragon." A slightly deep voice came from the other side of the gate, summoning Yun Shi, who was standing in front of the 12 constellation gods' weapons. "Sorry for bothering you." Yun Shi appeared somewhat nervous in the presence of this legendary figure, the king of undead. The true form of the puppet of the faceless god is now on him, so if anything goes wrong, he can immediately transform and activate the Parfu system. After a long silence, the grand gate slowly opens, revealing the scenery behind it. That looked a little different from what Yun Shi imagined. A huge tower blueprint stood in the middle of the room, rotating constantly and occasionally stopping. The king of undead, wearing black armor and a red cloak on his back, meticulously adjusted the blueprint of the tower, pointing at its structures from time to time. Every time he pointed, the densely scattered undead soldiers on the diagram would adjust their tasks, modifying the unstable structures and filling the newly delivered materials into the tower. There was no sense of killing or dominance that Yun Shi had imagined. The king of undead, wearing black armor, seemed completely absorbed in his work like a scholar, forgetting everything about the conversation with Yun Shi. It took a full 10 minutes after calling Yun Shi, for the king of undead to finally pause from his work, only after completing a small phase of the project and allocating all the newly arrived resources to the construction of Babylon Sky Tower. "I'm sorry for keeping you waiting for so long. I've been busy with tower repairs lately. If you came to get Constellation God's weapons, they have already been prepared for you." Thinking about Yun Shi's past impression, the king of undead's tone was even calmer and more friendly than imagined. Even more incredible, although it was their first meeting, Yun Shi felt a strange fondness for the king of undead in front of him. Just recently, they were enemies who had to determine a winner and loser, but if it wasn't for Kingdom's shield taking the initiative to reconcile, both sides might still be at war. Yet, when Yun Shi truly arrived in front of the king of undead, he found that everything was slightly different from what he had imagined. Are you not a dragon of this world?" Just as Yun Shi was puzzled and confused, the king of undead smiled softly and revealed the truth that Yun Shi had been hiding. "Huh?" Yun Shi looked at the king of undead in astonishment, not knowing when he had revealed a flaw. "Because you possess the same aura as me, which doesn't belong to Sia's world. The princess, the knight, and the dancer cannot sense this, but I immediately noticed it when I saw you. Because I am also the same kind of person. The king of undead gazed gently at Yunxi. She didn't know why, but when she saw Yunxi, she didn't feel distant. Instead, she felt a sense of familiarity. The dragon clan and the organization she belonged to were not enemies, but rather had a lot of cooperation between them. Although she didn't know where this wandering sacred silver dragon came from, she wanted it to become a source of power for her side, if possible. To show sincerity, the king of undead took off his helmet, revealing his soft and radiant silver hair, as well as his gentle and charming face. In that instant, Yunxi completely turned to stone. Because he recognized the person in front of him. Rather, this person was one of the closest and most special people in his world. In the small town, she always shyly showed him a gentle smile. She was Elphilis, the daughter of the jeweler, who was the most like an older sister among all childhood friends. Elphilis was the girl that, in Yunxi's imagination, besides Hua Hua, was the most suitable for marriage among all childhood friends. Chapter 1186. How is that possible? It's her. Yunxi couldn't help but open his mouth, looking at his childhood sweetheart, Elphilis, the heiress of the jewelry store, with eyes that seemed as if the world was crumbling. Even if his 4 creator-level girlfriends were to appear in front of him now and say, "You are already dead," it would still not be as shocking as what Yunxi was experiencing. The Elphilis he remembered was the most knowledgeable and elegant among his childhood friends, recognized by everyone in the town as the most suitable bride. As the heiress of the jewelry store, Yunxi often joined her family for dinner. She seemed very happy to entertain everyone at her home. Despite being an heiress, she was very approachable, especially caring towards Yunxi. In Yunxi's eyes, she, who was 1 year older than him, was like an older sister. Although Hua Hua was always Yunxi's first choice, compared to the summer queen who radiated dazzling brilliance and was destined to leave the town, the gentle and beautiful Elphilis, like a crystal, also appeared frequently in Yunxi's future. For a suitable marriage partner, Elphilis is actually the best candidate. Since she was 14 years old, countless boys and young men from neighboring villages confessed their love and sent love letters to this heiress of the jewelry store, like bamboo shoots after the rain. Of course, she rejected everything. When they played house as children, Elphilis often played the role of a mother, Hua Hua always assertively took the role of the groom, and Millie and Yi Li could only be the daughters. Well, if you ask Yunxi what role Hua Hua assigned to him, there's only the role of the bride left. No matter when, Elphilis in Yunxi's memories was always so gentle, understanding, and the best at resolving conflicts among childhood friends. She often came to Yunxi's bakery with a parasol, always managing to find time when Hua Hua wasn't around and getting a chance to spend time with Yunxi. Hua Hua had no idea how many stories had happened between Elphilis and Yunxi while she was practicing. Don't misunderstand, it was just a simple afternoon tea chat time. Compared to living in a small town and inheriting the family bakery in the future, Yunxi dreamed of being an excellent baker. Elphilis seemed to have experienced a wider world. During afternoon tea with Yunxi, she would always tell him some incredible stories from Endless God's domain. That legendary Cassina, the battle god, has won the battle god's grand martial arts tournament again. The almighty Ionia, the great god from the western god's domain, got angry and punished several gods by banishing them from their divine realms. In the northern god's domain, dragon god Asher, the ruler, held a birthday banquet for his daughter and invited many gods to attend. Wait, how does she know all this? When Yunxi was a child, he used to consider these unbelievable stories as myths. For a boy living in an ordinary small town, concepts like the creator god, Cassina the battle god, were nothing but imaginary beings he could never encounter in his lifetime. But now, he carries the curse of Asher's star-hunting dragon, his former girlfriend. Cassina the battle god embedded the seed of the battle god into his body. What's wrong with my face? The king of undead from the underground cemetery and Elphilis, the heir of the Ten Leaves Alliance, tilted her head, looking somewhat puzzled at Yunxi in front of her. No. I just never imagined that the king of undead would be such a beautiful lady. Yunxi stared blankly at Elphilis, who seemed familiar yet unfamiliar. This was a side of Elphilis that he didn't know. Her silver hair cascaded shining like moonlight, resembling an elf from a story. You too, beautiful silver dragon. Is your name Ash? Elphilis put down her magic pen. The more she looked at Yunxi, the more she felt that the silver dragon before her possessed an extraordinary and otherworldly aura, something that only non-humans could have. When she was little, she had attended a grand birthday banquet for the North Dragon god Asher, and had gotten up close with the Asher who was known as the Supreme Dragon God. From Yunxi, she could faintly sense a resemblance to Asher, a lineage that was undoubtedly of the highest level. Perhaps it had accidentally stumbled into this world. She had studied the Bone Dragon Legion in the underground cemetery, and discovered that these so-called dragon clans were mostly inferior. They could not compare at all to the true pure blood of the northern god's domain. They could only be considered as mixed breeds with partial dragon blood. Thinking about the origin of Leviathan the sky beast, she could probably guess why the dragon clans in this world were so weak that even scholarly heroes like the King of Undead could defeat them. Clearly, there were too many flaws in the incomplete dragon bloodline. However, the silver dragon before her was different. Its lineage was definitely the most pure, likely belonging to the legendary level of bloodline at the top of the pyramid even in the dragon god's domain. It might even be a descendant of the sacred dragons created by Asher herself. No wonder the Black Iron Giant, Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, and even the Rift Space Dragon were no match for it. True dragons and mixed-blood dragons are completely different. Those favored by Asher were born as super beings, surpassing the entire Endless God's domain in terms of their racial value. Yes, Ash. Yunxi couldn't say his real name and didn't even dare to recognize his childhood friend in front of him. The curse he carried was really heavy. The enemies chasing after him now have become so powerful that there is no force that can protect him. Among the 4 towers that form the foundation of the entire Endless God's domain civilization, their owners are his enemies. The 4 former girlfriends of the creator gods are watching you. They are deciding the punishment you will receive. It's terrifying, but Yunxi can only disguise his identity in order to survive. The constellation god's weapons you wanted are all here. These are all splendid creations of fantasy, and they should satisfy you. Elphilis clapped her hands, and 8 boxes with different constellations engraved on them appeared in the corner of the room. This is the advice given to her by Kingdom's Shield, and it's also the decision she made. Although it may slightly inconvenience the former immortal king who entrusted everything to her, he, as someone who wants to change Sia's world even in death and make it a part of Endless God's domain, probably wouldn't mind these things. As an elite of the 10 Leaves Alliance, initially he came to this world only for a mission, but later on, it was obvious that he devoted everything to this mission. All the things he left behind were built for this great goal. Ah, thank you. Yunxi took a deep breath and smiled brightly. Thank you, Elphilis. It's really great to be able to meet you again. Chapter 1190. Yunxi felt uneasy and even panicked as he looked at the 8 constellation gods' weapons, which were the targets of his trial. Compared to these constellation gods' weapons, Elphilis's presence now mattered more to him. Truly, he had so many things he wanted to say to his childhood sweetheart. Why are you here? Didn't you go to study in the Western God's domain? Elphilis, this place is very dangerous. No, why are you the king of undead in the underground cemetery? Yunxi learned about Elphilis, Millie, and Yi Li going to study in the Western God's domain from Hua Hua. The information also came back through the seeds planted in them. After they both attended school at the White Lotus Sword Palace, he and Hua Hua chose to study at a higher level school in the Western God's domain, so they won't be able to see each other for a while. Yunxi never dreamt that he would be completely cut off from the Endless God's domain in his own star trial world. He can say he is not in the civilization of the Endless God's domain, and he met his childhood sweetheart. Elphilis looked at Yunxi's anxious eyes, feeling a bit puzzled. Is there any problem with these constellation gods' weapons? No, there's no problem with these constellation gods' weapons. The problem is you, Elphilis. Yunxi pretended to inspect these 8 ancient constellation gods' weapons. His mind was in complete chaos. In his memories, Elphilis, the young lady from the jewelry store, was always his top alternative to Hua Hua for marriage. She had a gentle personality, was close to his age, and was recognized as a lady in the town. Every year, There were so many people sending her love letters and arranging marriage proposals that they almost crowded the doorstep of her jewelry store, and many of them were even from other towns. Her family's jewelry store was always very busy, and the people who came to propose felt like they were going crazy buying gemstones, just like buying groceries at a market stall. The knowledgeable and well-mannered young lady. The gentle and virtuous lady. And she had an amazing figure. Even Yoon Shi's parents were very pleased. She was always ranked first on the most desired bride list of all the nearby towns. Unlike the dazzling Hua Hua, who was destined for greatness, Elphilis was closer to what Yoon Shi imagined as the ideal bride. He had considered more than once that if Hua Hua really left the White Lotus Sword domain, maybe he would choose Elphilis as his future partner. Elphilis didn't shine like Hua Hua. If Hua Hua was the queen of summer, shining like the sun, then Elphilis was a blooming purple Roland in the garden, elegant and captivating. At least, compared to the almost impossible future of marrying Hua Hua, the once ordinary Yoon Shi felt that his chances of marrying Elphilis were greater. Counting the days, Hua Hua was going to participate in the Sword Palace exam. In the days when they would no longer be able to see each other, Yoon Shi thought carefully about the future with their other childhood friends. If they were to get married, Elphilis would be the most suitable. If it was about love, perhaps Millie would be more appropriate. As for Yi Li, well, they were just too young, so they could only hope for the future. For Yoon Shi, who had already planned out the next 30 years of his life, unaware of his tragic future of being pursued by his 4 creator-level ex-girlfriends, this was the visible life. It's not that he didn't like Hua Hua, he had just realized early on that Hua Hua, like the sun, would definitely go to a place he could never reach. He had always considered Hua Hua to be the most important person to him, but back then, he didn't have the ability to keep up with her. The two of them were like intersecting lines. After crossing paths at that moment, they were destined not to be together. Hua Hua was his first love, the forever most beautiful feeling, something that could never be forgotten no matter when, a perpetual crush. And Elphilis, Millie, and Yi Li were the ones who were real. Yoon Shi at that time really thought that way. The impact on Yoon Shi from Elphilis, as he remembered her, being so gentle, was immense. It was completely unbelievable that, far beyond the White Lotus Sword domain by countless light-years, sitting on the throne of the underground cemetery, was his childhood friend Elphilis. Aren't you the past king of undead? Yoon Shi took a deep breath. The legend of the king of undead in the underground cemetery could be traced back to the divine era of the war between humans and dragons in this world. No matter how he thought about it, that king of undead couldn't possibly be the Elphilis in front of him. Or, could it be that the Elphilis he knew had actually lived for millions of years? Yes, the previous king of undead was an incredibly remarkable person. He was an excellent scholar and the person who understood this world the most. Elphilis's answer relieved Yoon Shi, at least it wasn't the worst possible answer. However, this is not enough. He really wants to know more things, more truths. You are the new king of the undead, what is your name? Yoon Shi couldn't care less about being impolite, he had too many questions he wanted to ask. Elphilis, that is my name. Ash, would you like to become my ally? This world needs change. I want to fulfill the last wish of the previous king of the undead. Elphilis's gaze remained as gentle as Yoon Shi remembered. However, she was no longer the young lady of the jewelry store. She was now the ruler of the underground cemetery, deciding the fate of Sia's world as the king of the undead. From her, Yoon Shi could sense an incredibly powerful force, even stronger than the Black Iron Giant and the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast combined. Familiar, yet unfamiliar. Even though she was right in front of him, Yoon Shi couldn't reveal his identity, unable to acknowledge her. I willingly. Yoon Shi gazed at the familiar gentle face, unsure of what expression to show at this moment. Elphilis also noticed the complex gaze of the silver dragon in front of her. Confusion. Unease. Curiosity. And, it seemed like a place she had seen before, a nostalgic scent. Elphilis is a very beautiful name. Yoon Shi awkwardly extended his hand, like meeting a childhood friend for the first time. A small hand as white as snow, with the essence of a dragon's life coursing through the skin, and only 14 years old, Elphilis couldn't recognize him, which was only natural. However, When Yunshi held Elphilis's outstretched hand, his heartbeat accelerated as usual. Just like when he carried Hua Hua on his back, during tea time, he would listen to her telling those timeless mythological stories. Chapter 1191. Are the princess and the dancer doing well with you? As the successor of the previous king of undead, Elphilis had the responsibility to take care of the ancient weapons in the underground cemetery. They were also essential assistants in breaking Sia's world with heaven's banishment. The previous king of undead had developed ancient weapons such as the Black Iron Giant, Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, Opera House Phantom, and Rift Space Dragon, which were not originally intended for war. Their ultimate goal was the same. They wanted the wise beings of Sia's world to break through the barriers of the sky, establish a star bridge in this world, and make this world a part of the endless gods' domain civilization. For the Ten Leaves Alliance, this was also their most important mission. Each addition of a new god's domain from a new civilization meant the recognition of more world rules, more rare resources, and a list of minerals. Any world that gave birth to civilization was a treasure that the Ten Leaves Alliance desired. Every civilization in the sky has its own unique features. Discovering these civilizations and making them part of the endless gods' domain, the Seven Towers system, has been the most important achievement and goal of the Ten Leaves Alliance since the Twilight War of the Gods. Sia's world's mission is one of the most challenging tasks in the known discovered civilizations. Compared to other civilizations that can be engaged in limited negotiations once discovered, the isolation of Sia's world is unparalleled. The people living in Sia's world may not know how strange the gods' domain where Sia's world is located is. Not only is it as simple as the heavens' banishment, but the coordinates of the entire gods' domain where Sia's world is located are chaotic and change their position every once in a while. The planetary belt surrounding Sia's world not only cannot be accessed by conventional means, but even if one manages to enter, they will face immense rejection. The exploration missions launched by the Ten Leaves Alliance targeting Sia's world have a failure rate of 99%. The previous king of undead is the only known individual who successfully entered Sia's world and returned with a message for the Ten Leaves Alliance. It took the Ten Leaves Alliance thousands of years or more, from the establishment of the incomplete Heaven's Tower by the king of undead to the execution of the trial mission by Elphilis, to reach this place. It's not that the Ten Leaves Alliance didn't save the previous king of undead, it's just that figuring out the ever-changing coordinates of Sia's world was too difficult. If it wasn't for the king of undead sending out the message, the Ten Leaves Alliance might never have found the way in for thousands of years. Ancient weapons like the Black Iron Giant, Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, Opera House Phantom, and Rift Space Dragon represent all the emotions the previous king of undead had for this world. Even if it turns into a bonfire, Elphilis was infected by this determination, making her determined to complete this trial. The Black Iron Giant is fine, but the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast might need some more time to repair. The seal of the Rift Space Dragon will soon be automatically released. Is this tower the miracle you want to accomplish? Yunshi's heart was accelerating, and he could only pretend to have a conversation to disguise his emotions. Parfu, who was inside the dragon gem on Yunshi's chest, had long been excited and jumping around. This unfamiliar world, so distant that it could be said to be separated by countless other worlds, meeting the lady from the jewelry store whom Yunshi once thought was the most suitable for marriage, made him feel a sense of destiny. Even though she was right in front of him, they couldn't recognize each other or speak about anything related to themselves. Even though it's not allowed, even though it's not right, the feelings that surged in their hearts couldn't be restrained. This won't do, things are bound to go wrong if it continues like this. Yunshi knew better than anyone that this was not right, but he couldn't control the emotions welling up within him. Elphilis, are you okay? Do you still remember Yunshi now? And what is your true identity? Yes, Silver Dragon, watch closely now. Soon, a bridge to the stars will be erected in this world. For this goal, Underground Cemetery has been preparing for millions of years. When all the ancient weapons of Underground Cemetery are completed, this Tower of Babel will become the biggest marvel in this world. Elphilis raised her fingertips, pointing at the endless distant stars. There, it is a world of stars and ocean, cherished by the creatures of this world since the divine era began. Once the Tower of Babel is completed, A brand new era will dawn upon this world. Conquering the world is just a means to accomplish this goal. The time has come. As long as enough resources are gathered and the unfinished 5th and 6th ancient weapons of the underground cemetery are created, the miracle will happen. The world's greatest miracle is right in front of me, Elphilis. She has never felt the bond between him and Elphilis so clearly, transcending time and space. Even though burdened by curses from Asher, Ionia, the Nameless, and Naya, unable to use the power of the starseed connection, she can still feel the invisible thread between him and Elphilis. You possess great power. May Asher bless you, Elphilis said with a smile, delivering the Northern God's domain-style congratulations that left she unsure whether to cry or laugh. Blessings from Asher. For me, they are like fatal curses, Elphilis. Looking at his current 14-year-old body and the dragon jade on his chest, she began to regret his proactive choice of Asher's curse. Would it have been better to choose Ionia's curse? I have some dragon friends that I know in the Northern God's domain. You must have accidentally ended up in this world. Do you want me to help you find your way back? Elphilis always cared about others. Thank you, but I don't plan on going back. Yunshi's forehead sweated heavily. Was he going to the dragon god's domain in the north to fall into the trap of his ex-girlfriend, dragon god Asher? Taking a path to certain death is not the way to go. If he were to find a place to hide, it would definitely be some remote god's domain in the eastern god's domain. Wasn't he living happily in the White Lotus Sword domain for 16 years? If possible, the place he wanted to go the most was the legendary Kunlun god's domain. At least, there he had a good friend, the Golden Crow Princess. Additionally, the Empress Shi of the Kunlun god's domain was the only creator-level being who had never harmed him. You're starting your journey so young. You're truly an outstanding silver dragon, Elphilis looked at Yunshi, who was even younger than herself, with a gentle expression. Somehow, this beautiful and lovely silver dragon was very endearing. Chapter 1192 Elphilis, one of the strongest future inheritors of Endless God's domain, who represents the four-leaf faction of 10 leaves, knows that there are different systems within the dragon clan. Descended directly from the ancient dragon god Asher, ruling over Northern God's domain, while also overseeing the void dragons who guard Endless God's domain and the unknown boundaries of the field, they are the most powerful dragons in all of Endless God's domain. Supreme Dragon God, hailed as the origin of the dragon clan, the Dragon of Order, is the most dominant personality among all known creator-level beings. The other creator-level beings have rarely appeared before the public, only Dragon Emperor Asher occasionally sending out their will incarnations. The dragons under her command are often aggressive, and the expansion of Endless God's domain and Northern God's domain after the Twilight of the Gods is the best proof. These young and spirited dragons fervently support the Dragon Clan's expansion plans, constantly venturing into the unknown territories of Endless God's domain, conquering the star domains of civilizations beneath them. If it weren't for the default principle of non-aggression among the creator existences, to avoid triggering another Twilight of the Gods, these ambitious dragons would have probably already started wars with other gods' domains. Meanwhile, over the long years, the Dragon Clan also gave rise to several different branches. Some of them, tired of war, still hold reverence for Supreme Dragon God Asher, but they no longer use war as a means to expand territories. Instead, they study the differences of various civilizations and grow through traveling across Endless God's domain. Elphilis could clearly see that the small dragon in front of her, Silver Dragon Ash, belonged to the same group as the one behind her. This group, known as the minority faction of dragons in Northern God's domain, was one of the allies of the 10 Leaves Alliance. One of the creators of the 10 Leaves Alliance, a certain member who had never revealed their identity, was the mysterious dragon Elphilis had just encountered. Elphilis herself was chosen by the 10 Leaves as one of their agents. When she was young, she had personally visited the dragon god Asher's palace in Northern God's domain to attend a birthday party for Asher's daughter. This event, as recorded in the history of the Endless God's domain, was the last time many intelligent beings openly interacted with the will incarnations of creator-level beings. Afterwards, for unknown reasons, almost all creator-level beings fell into a strange silence, and no one could communicate with their will anymore. At this time, Elphilis was unaware that during her time in Sia's world undergoing trials, a major event had shocked all the gods in the Endless Gods domain. The wills of 5, possibly 6, creator-level beings appeared in the White Lotus Sword domain, where Hua Hua resided. Their immense power even caused the Star Bridge to come to a halt. The closed environment of Sia's world, detached from the rest of the Endless Gods domain civilization, caused Elphilis to miss this significant event that had already been written into the history of the Endless Gods domain. The person who had brought together the silent creator-level beings was standing right in front of her, looking at her with a nervous but compelling gaze. "Is there anything I can help you with, Elphilis?" After discovering that the owner of the underground cemetery is the King of Undead, who is also his childhood friend, Yunshi suddenly feels guilty. He personally defeated the Black Iron Giant and the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, and took the soul cores of these two ancient weapons. Until he walked through the door and saw the true face of the King of Undead, he was prepared for anything. If the communication goes smoothly and he can obtain the Constellation God's weapons and the goodwill of the other party, it would be the best. If this is a trap and the other party has ulterior motives, he and the Faceless God must use absolute power to defeat or even kill the King of Undead in the underground cemetery. Who would have imagined that the owner of the underground cemetery under the black armor would actually be the young lady of this jewelry store? "Aren't you afraid of me?" Since a while ago, Elphilis has noticed that the gaze of the young boy before her is somewhat ambiguous. She has seen that kind of gaze in many young boys' eyes before, and she rejected all of them. The reason is simple: you came too late. If at this moment, the tiny silver dragon were to confess his love to her without caring about anything else, she would probably say, "You are a good child, but still too young. Wait until you grow up and understand what true love is, then I will reconsider." Of course, there is no need to reconsider as her heart is already filled with the image of someone else. She doesn't think about anyone other than him. The world is so big, but her heart is small, it can't contain anyone other than the person she loves. Why be afraid? You are so beautiful and charming. Yunshi wouldn't confess his love to Elphilis, he doesn't need to do such a thing himself. Because that night, Elphilis had already confessed her love to him. Unfortunately, he had already fallen for someone else and had been bound by the disguise of being a greatsword made to Hua Hua, his childhood friend. He had to leave the town where he lived together with Hua Hua. Even if he hadn't been caught by Hua Hua, he was planning to leave the town and wander the world. At that time, he didn't realize yet how terrifying it was to have 4 ex-girlfriends who were creator level. He just instinctively felt that he needed to get further away. Elphilis liked him, and the boss of the jewelry store had hinted more than once that he could marry into the store. Well, to tell the truth, Yunshi really felt a spark. He had long understood that he wasn't worthy of Hua Hua. It was reality, not a fairy tale. Compared to Hua Hua, the gentle and lovely Elphilis, who was considered the most suitable bride for the jewelry store's young miss, was obviously a better choice. Well then, let's celebrate the fulfillment of our covenant. Elphilis smiled faintly and somehow produced a complete tea set from somewhere, brewing some black tea. "Ah, in that case, I have bread here." Yunshi also took out his prized possession, a limited edition collection of 100 breads. "Ah, this cream bread is a rare treasure of the 4th rank, right?" Elphilis wasn't an ordinary mortal who had no idea about Sia's world. At the first glance of Yunshi's golden cream bread, she knew it was a highly refined magical food. The food at this level has incredible magic in itself. It can replenish the strength and magic of heroes, and it's not something that can be bought with money. No matter which organization, this is a true strategic resource, the universal hard currency of the entire Endless Gods domain. In the entire 10 Leaves Alliance, heroes who can create magic food of this level are highly sought after rare talents. Chapter 1193 Yes, it's a treasure I've collected. Constellation God's weapons are important to me, as well as Queen Ain of the Sia Kingdom and Princess Adley. I hope you can take care of them more in the future, Yunshi said sincerely while looking at Elphilis. If it's her, Yunshi will trust her unconditionally. Whether it's her, Millie, Yi Li, or Hua Hua, they are all irreplaceable childhood friends to Yunshi. "Do you really trust me like that? We were enemies not long ago." Elphilis was a little confused. She could tell that the sacred silver dragon in front of her was a bit infatuated with her, but she didn't understand this unwavering trust. Did she get dazzled by the sudden arrival of love? The fourth-grade food is not just some regular cabbage. As the heir of the 10 Leaves Alliance, she only brought a small box of this grade of magic teddy bear cookies to this remote seer's world. There was no other way. Compared to other special supplies that needed to be sent over first, this small box of magic teddy bear cookies was what she managed to get by sacrificing some jewelry to contribute to the construction of the temporary star bridge. These cookies, which can replenish magic and vitality when necessary, are the favorite supplies of all hero-ranked strong individuals in the 10 Leaves Alliance. No exceptions. The pastry chef who can make these magical cookies is a treasure of the entire 10 Leaves Alliance and is not allowed to participate in any dangerous missions. These teddy bear cookies, with a shelf life of over 100 years, can be exchanged for more than 10 times the amount of gold in any god's domain. They are always valuable and cannot be bought. After all, it is extremely rare for someone to choose a life occupation as a genius on the path to becoming a hero-ranked individual. And a life occupation that can produce excellent magical food is even rarer among the rare. When Elphilis glanced at the golden cream bread Yoon she took out, which seemed to still emit the heat of just being baked, she conscientiously put away the compressed teddy bear cookies she had prepared to serve. The difference between the two sides was clear at a glance. As for whether Yoon she is the hero-ranked bread artisan, Elphilis had never heard of dragons advancing in life occupations. How could a powerful dragon have a hobby of baking bread? Any hero-ranked advancement follows certain rules, regardless of which god's domain it is. Some people are naturally gifted with nimble hands and can choose from various hero-ranked advancements. The future god weapon could be a sword or a gun, but definitely not kitchen utensils. Similarly, those who excel in painting and immerse themselves in the field of art cannot choose berserker as their occupation. Artists are often eccentric individuals, and those who love their livelihood usually don't enjoy wielding swords and knives. Therefore, Elphilis didn't even think about what kind of bread Yoon she just baked. Yoon she produced the bread out of thin air, which might seem unbelievable to others, but Elphilis herself also possesses this ability. The heir of the 10 Leaves Alliance participating in the trial naturally wouldn't come unprepared. They made all the necessary preparations before starting this trial. What a coincidence, it's bread. Elphilis calmly upgraded the quality of her own black tea, smelling the fragrant aroma permeating the air. Although not as strategic as magical food supplies, this red tea, which enhances meditation efficiency, is considered a treasure worth more than 10 times its weight in gold in the Western God's Domain for Mage God's domains. By the way, when she was having afternoon tea with someone at a bakery in a small town, she always drank this. Such a nice smell. Yoon she smelled the familiar tea aroma. It was a red tea that he searched the whole town for but couldn't find. He didn't know where it was produced, but every time he drank it, it made him feel happy. Everything seemed to be back to how it was before. It was a leisurely afternoon sunshine, just him and Elphilis, enjoying a purple Roland-scented tea date. Even though it was only a few months ago, it felt like a long time had passed. When Yoon she had tea with Elphilis again, it felt like a different world. Maybe, in a way, it really was a different world. When he got caught by his 4 ex-girlfriends and had to split his soul and part of his body to escape, Yoon she truly smelled the scent of death. It wasn't the death he experienced hundreds or thousands of times in trials, but a real catastrophe that no one in the entire endless god's domain could save him from. Now looking back, it was really a miracle to escape alive. Next time, there won't be such luck. Those 4 creator-level ex-girlfriends will never make the same mistake twice. Oh, this taste. After taking the first bite of Yoon she's bread, Elphilis knew where the fragrance she smelled in Sia Royal city streets came from. The sweetness that seemed to melt the tongue, with a light bite and a roll, gave a satisfying sensation to the soul. This taste, as if carved into her memory, so familiar, so sweet. No, something's not right. Reluctant to admit it, but this taste is indeed more perfect, more intoxicating than in her memory. Where did this bread come from? Elphilis widened her eyes, with an expression of disbelief. She never imagined that in this remote and isolated Sias world, she would be able to taste such high-quality bread. Moreover, what was even more important was that this bread gave her a feeling that was familiar deep in her bones. Yunxi himself would not know what his handmade bread represented to his childhood sweetheart. From Hua Hua to Elphilis, Millie, and Yi Li, everyone was accustomed to eating his bread since they were young, and they knew its taste even better than he did. If it wasn't for this time when Yunxi made an advanced hero-ranked cream golden bread, Elphilis would have already grabbed him and yelled, "It's you, little she." Seeing Elphilis's bewildered expression, Yunxi finally realized that he had let slip a big secret. There was no way around it. Giving his best-made bread to his childhood sweetheart had become an almost instinctive habit for him. Luckily, Elphilis had never tried the bread he made after advancing. It was still the special version of golden cream bread he perfected by modifying the recipe. After the special limited bread storage bonus for hero-ranked bakers, the quality of these breads had already surpassed the sky, and Elphilis's astonishment was the best proof. Chapter 1194 It's a secret. Yunxi, sweating profusely, could only stubbornly deny it. Lying to Elphilis was just too difficult. She wasn't an easy-to-please Millie, obedient Yi Li, or silly and cute Hua Hua. She was a knowledgeable and sensible young lady from a jewelry store, who used to outperform Yunxi in their studies. Although Yunxi only attended compulsory education at the academy before inheriting the family bakery, without considering higher education, the time he spent studying with Elphilis made him understand one thing very well. There are differences between people. Just as Hua Hua effortlessly dominates others in terms of physical strength, Elphilis's academic abilities are also in a league of their own. In the past, even the teachers in the academy didn't dare to question Elphilis, because that would be humiliating themselves. Elphilis's knowledge is recognized as the best in the surrounding towns. As for Hua Hua and Yunxi, one often skips classes and doesn't do well in exams, while the other's performance is just average, like ranking 30th out of 50. Compared to the super smart Elphilis, Yunxi never thought he could surpass his childhood friend in academics. She always knows the perfect timing, coming to Yunxi's shop to enjoy afternoon tea when Hua Hua is not around, and then leaving before Hua Hua appears. Several times, Hua Hua caught a whiff of Elphilis's perfume in Yunxi's shop, but she never actually caught Elphilis. Staring into her crystal-clear, gem-like eyes, Yunxi felt like surrendering immediately. Even magic food of this level, I would keep it a secret too. Elphilis understood Yunxi's cautiousness. Just like how the 10 Leaves Alliance keeps all information about the magical bear-shaped biscuits a secret, the source of this magic bread cannot be casually revealed either. Even among allies, there are things that some should know and others should not. Both sides respect each other's secrets, and only then can the covenant last long. However, the taste of this golden cream bread was simply irresistible to her. Why does this taste so similar to Little She's bread? If Little She could become a hero-ranked baker in her lifetime, obtain the perfect fourth-order bread recipe, and make such bread, it would be wonderful for her to live off it for her whole life. With the texture of this magical bread and the magical feedback she experienced when eating it, it was of even better quality than the best teddy bear biscuits from her own 10 Leaves Alliance. She had every reason to keep Little She hidden away for her whole life. Well, of course, this was just a small fantasy of hers. If she wanted to keep Little She hidden away for her whole life, she first had to defeat Hua Hua, that big demon king. When she was forced to leave Little She in the past, she was angry and sent her subordinates from the 10 Leaves Alliance to cause trouble for Hua Hua once, and that's how this inheritance trial started. Due to achieving high scores in the previous trial task of guarding the most ferocious monster in the Endless Gods domain, this time her trial difficulty was much lower than the first round. The King of Undead from before had already made the first move in Sia's world and continued to invest a lot of resources. All she had to do was make good use of these resources, along with the key components she brought with the space equipment, to completely build the Tower of Babel. The previous King of Undead was involved in strategic construction tasks, while her task was to complete the already built framework of the Tower of Babel. How many crystals can I exchange for this type of bread? Elphilis changed her wording, no longer pursuing the source of the bread, but simply wanting to buy some of these strategic resources. Crystals are not the currency of Sia's world or White Lotus Sword domain. but a universal exchange item used in Endless Gods domain, which is useful from the higher field, hero ranked, and even to the legend ranked. Endless Gods domain is home to countless intelligent beings, mortals, heroes, and even gods, who have established nations like countless stars in the sky, using a variety of currencies. Before the Star Bridge was built, the currencies of each god's domain were completely incompatible. After all, the civilization systems were different. How could they use the same thing as currency? Gems, gold, stones, salt, livestock. Each civilization system has traditional things used as currency, so completing transactions becomes a big problem. Crystals represent the currency system of the Ten Leaves Alliance and the fairies. Ijing is a leaf from a golden tree planted by the golden fairies who created this system. It's about the size of a normal camphor tree leaf, very light in weight, and has a crystal-like appearance. It is the common currency used by hero-ranked individuals for trading. Because these golden leaves contain a slight magical aura that can be used by almost all living creatures, they gradually became an accepted equivalent currency in the Endless Gods domain. The golden leaves cultivated by the golden fairies are limited in quantity, and they are essential materials for many magical foods and alchemy. They are always in short supply and are the most widely used exchange item in the entire Endless Gods domain. The monetary system used by the ruling classes within the various countries of the Endless Gods domain to exploit the labor of the people is not recognized in transactions. Instead, a currency system that must have tangible and intrinsic value is used. Crystals are the most commonly used trading items in hero-rank transactions, while some in the gods' domain use a less popular currency called souls. Some parts of the gods' domain don't accept any currency at all, and can only rely on bartering, remaining in a very primitive stage. However, in trades between individuals at the legend ranked, there exists an absolutely unified currency that is used throughout the entire Endless Gods domain, regardless of whether it is in the north, south, east, or west. This currency, called leaves, was only created in the later stages of the twilight of the gods. It is actually a leaf from the world tree, possessing the miraculous power of star crystals. This is a treasure that even gods cannot refuse. Each leaf of the world tree is a rare and precious item that allows the holder to exchange it for anything they need. This is because, at the legend ranked, there is no longer any need for most worldly possessions. Only treasures like the leaves of the world tree are worthy of catching the attention of those at the legend ranked. They have been determined as the highest level currency equivalent in the Endless Gods domain. The leaves of the golden tree, nurtured by the golden fairies, are actually based on the concept of the world tree's leaves. They have been recognized by most countries and civilizations in the Endless Gods domain. Completing the leaf system is considered one of the greatest achievements in the history of the Ten Leaves Alliance. This currency, created by an undisclosed founder of the Ten Leaves Alliance, can be seen as one of the cornerstones of the entire civilization in the Endless Gods domain. Chapter 1195. How about 100 crystals? Elphilis offered, seeing Yunshi's bewildered expression. As naturally perfect catalysts for magic, the golden tree leaves have an astonishing purchasing power of 1 crystal. Being the only universally recognized currency system at the hero rank, other currencies can't even compare to it. In a world like Sia's world, where the Star Bridge is not connected yet, a cluster of crystal leaves like this can be used as the rarest alchemy material. In this world's divine era, you can even buy a god weapon. However, the value of money depends on what you're trading for. There are some things that you can't buy no matter how much money you have. The 4th grade golden cream bread that Yunshi brought out is considered a valuable strategic resource in this world. 10 times the amount of gold is just a way of describing it. Once the owner doesn't sell, even if you have a gold mine, it wouldn't help at all. A world where money can buy everything only exists in civilizations that have never been seen before with extraordinary powers. Following the occasional magical food trading records of her organization, Elphilis set a rough price for Yunshi's golden cream bread, 100 crystals. This price can buy a house with a garden in the best location of the busiest city, Western Gods Domain, in Endless Gods Domain. It's a lifelong dream for many people in Endless Gods Domain, and 99.9% of them will never be able to fulfill this dream. In the past trades of god weapons that had lost their owners in Endless God's domain, the lowest known price was around 10,000 crystals. This means that this piece of golden cream bread is worth 1% of that god weapon. Even though it lost its owner and cannot be inherited, the god weapon is still an excellent weapon, a treasure among mortal beings. There's no doubt that magical food, which can save a hero-ranked strong person's life at a critical moment, is extremely rare and uncommon. Once they reach the hero-ranked level, ordinary herbs, injections, and such lose their effectiveness. It is a natural result of the evolution of the essence of hero-ranked life. Among naturally grown medicinal herbs, only those that have accumulated hundreds or even thousands of years can heal the injuries of hero-ranked individuals and restore their strength. Not to mention, the injuries caused by various extraordinary powers, and even the damage caused by god weapons, can only be treated with the same kind of extraordinary power. In the Western God's domain, there is a special profession called priest, which specializes in healing and assisting divine arts. However, obtaining this profession requires a strong belief and an affinity for the light element. It is a profession unique to the church, and most people don't leave the church. In comparison, the advantage of magical food is more apparent, as the rare priests are mostly in the church, while magical food can be carried around as a life-saving item. However, the problem is that there are even fewer professions that can produce magical food than the priest profession. To become a priest, one needs devout faith and an affinity for the light element, while being able to create magical food requires an immense passion for one's profession, along with extraordinary talent in sensing. A hero-ranked strong person who becomes a combat profession will be greatly respected by many people. On the other hand, a hero-ranked person who chooses a profession for daily life, although also respected, has the weakest combat ability among all hero-ranked individuals. Everyone wants to have a profession for daily life to assist themselves, but no one wants to be in a profession that supports others. Therefore, the scarcity of these professions is completely understandable. In the mortal world, the power of the country can brainwash many people and make them accept their fate of having a profession for daily life. However, to achieve a hero-ranked profession for daily life, one needs to have a genuine love and be fully immersed in it. This is not something that can be interfered with by any country's orders. In any era, a hero-ranked profession for daily life is as rare as a giant panda. Even powerful organizations like the 10 Leaves Alliance, which has influence all over the Endless God's domain, have very few hero-ranked professionals in these professions. Among them, the individual who can create perfect magical food as a profession for daily life, even Elphilis doesn't know who that person is. She only knows that they are the most well-protected person in the entire 10 Leaves Alliance. In all honesty, without magical bear cookies, the combat strength of the entire 10 Leaves Alliance would decrease by half. A person who can continuously create magical food, whether they are a bread maker, a dessert maker, or any other profession, is a precious talent that all organizations in the Endless God's domain would envy and refuse to give up until they obtain them. 100 crystals. Yunshi had never used this hero-ranked currency that is widely accepted in the Endless God's domain. In the White Lotus Sword domain, this kind of currency is not commonly used, except near the Sky Tower where it is used for settling large amounts of goods. It was only through the library at the White Lotus Sword Palace that Yunshi found out about the existence of this currency. The smallest denomination is 1 crystal, and in his small town, no store can give change for that amount. Becoming a hero-ranked baker was a natural progression for Yunshi. His main profession was already a baker, and his goal was to work in this career for his whole life. Only Hydera the water god, Cassina the battle god, White Lotus, and the Red Lotus twins knew about his profession, so they didn't envy his special career. Yunshi himself didn't realize how rare his hero-ranked baker profession was. In the entire White Lotus sword domain, there were no recipes that he couldn't handle. Just thinking about it, a profession that can make food that even the Golden Crow Princess from Kunlun God's domain enjoys must be extraordinary, not ordinary. So, 120 crystals? Elphilis smiled slightly as she noticed Yunshi's hesitation. It's good to hesitate, as hesitation means there is a possibility of a transaction. If someone has an indifferent expression and doesn't care, it means that no amount of crystals can buy this type of magical food that they have never seen before. A premium of 20% can buy this golden creamy bread that tastes familiar, without any loss. Even without considering the emotional bonus, buying at 120 crystals, she is confident to sell for twice that value. Magic Bear cookies are the highest quality magic food that Elphilis can obtain, and they are precious strategic reserves for the entire Ten Leaves Alliance. Having an additional reserve of magic food is a good thing for the entire Ten Leaves Alliance. It would be even better if a stable and large supply could be formed. The Ten Leaves Alliance is desperate for any life profession that can produce magic food. Chapter 1196. Enough. Yunshi stammered, raising his hand to indicate that the price was really too high. He didn't really mean to keep it and not sell it. Rather, as a hero-ranked bread artisan, it was a disgrace for him to not earn a single penny after advancing to hero-ranked. No choice, the girls who eat the golden cream bread he made are either Hydera the water god, Cassina the battle god, White Lotus, Red Lotus, the Golden Crow Princess, or the Starwings Knights. He can't ask these girls for money. Besides, after advancing to the hero-ranked bread maker every day, he has a fixed amount of void-made bread every day, so he unconsciously forgot that his profession can also make money. It was not until he had contact with the jewel store's Miss Childhood friend as the Silver Dragon Ash that she willingly bought this kind of magic bread, which made Yunshi realize. So the 4th grade magic bread is valuable like this. True, this kind of magic food, he only saw it in the illustrated book before and never encountered it in the mortal world. He never expected that the golden cream bread he made by hand would be so valuable. A price of 100 crystals means that just casually eating it is equivalent to the price of a garden mansion in the prosperous area of the Endless God's domain. In the last days of Water God's world, Hydera the water god and the 3 water god high priests ate a lot of the golden cream bread he made himself. If we calculate again, Yunshi, who realized it late, found out that the divine era wine given to him by Hydera the water god was actually so luxurious and wasteful. Feeding himself and his childhood friend, White Lotus, Red Lotus, the Golden Crow Princess, and the girls of the Starwings Knights with a 4th-tier golden cream bread had become his habit. This is burning money. Yunshi couldn't help but laugh and cry as he realized that he was even more extravagant than he thought, Child Sanquan, and his wastefulness was nothing compared to them. Fallen, I have fallen, Yunshi. Don't you make the girls happy without bread? So, should he give them gemstones, flowers, or maybe a house? After thinking about it, Yunshi realized that giving them the bread he made himself was better. So I have become a wealthy person without even knowing it. It wasn't until Elphilis wanted to buy his bread that Yunshi truly realized what a huge leap it was from being a mortal to a hero-ranked breadsmith. The value of the bread sold in his own bakery probably didn't even amount to a small piece of the 4th-tier bread he casually made now. How much do you want? Selling his own bread as a product to his childhood friend, Yunshi felt a bit strange. But he could tell that Elphilis really wanted these breads. For him, it was something he could make every day, so it didn't matter how much he gave to Elphilis. If she asked for it, he would even give her the limited edition bread that is normally reserved for the top-ranking members, except for those few that need to be kept for emergencies. However, he couldn't do that because there was no way to explain to Elphilis how someone she barely knew like him could give away bread like that. How much do you have? Elphilis looked at Yunshi with surprise. Somehow, his expression told her that he had a lot of these rare magic breads. Even as the young miss of the Ten Leaves Alliance, she only carried a small box of Magic Bear cookies with her, which was just a strategic reserve for a regular-sized team. More rare and delicious than magic cookies, the magic bread is even more rare. Maybe this silver dragon has a lot of it. I can sell it to you for $50 today, and probably $100 tomorrow. Yunshi counted the stock of bread in his bakery and his own magic power limit. $150 in 2 days wouldn't be a problem at all. Judging from Elphilis's expression, it seemed like she wanted as much as possible. This was his first opening as a hero-ranked bread master. I'll take all of it. Elphilis didn't hesitate at all, without even negotiating the price. No matter how you look at it, this was a very profitable deal. You could even say that she was taking a huge advantage. The value of a magic bread and the value of 100 magic breads are completely different. She could even infer that the silver dragon Ash in front of her could sell even more magic bread. This was truly an unexpected joy. In a world like Sia's, which was in a period of declining magic, to be able to buy strategic reserve-level magic food or something like that was beyond imagination. Here you go. Yunshi didn't doubt Elphilis's trustworthiness and directly gave her 50 golden cream bread from the storage in his bakery. Because the bread storage limit is only 100 pieces, these 50 pieces were recently added. The extra portions were mostly given to Ain, Adley, and the girls from the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Looking back now, the cost of feeding these girls was really expensive. But apart from these breads, Yunshi doesn't have much else to offer. Money, like this thing, basically lost its meaning to Yunshi after entering the White Lotus Sword Palace. At least the currency used in the White Lotus Sword domain is completely useless. These are leaves worth 6,000 crystals. Elphilis, with shining eyes, looked at the table filled with golden cream bread and took out a few palm-sized crystal leaves. A huge amount of magic flows within these crystal leaves, that is the blessing bestowed by the golden fairies, leaves from a 1,000-year-old golden tree. One leaf is equivalent to 1,000 crystals. Most of the kings in Endless Gods domain countries don't have as many of these leaves as cash. 6,000 crystals, such a heavy weight. Yunshi's golden creamy bread was so valuable. Elphilis reached out her small hand and pinched the soft and delicious golden creamy bread. It still had a little bit of warmth, as if it had just come out of the oven. The familiar aroma and tempting taste would make even the princesses of Western Gods domain scream, even if it wasn't magical food. Ah, it's so wonderful to be alive in this world. If little she were here, they would definitely praise these golden creamy breads. I really wish I could have tea with little she again and chat about the latest news in Endless Gods domain. I've decided. I'll do my best to defeat Hua Hua, even if it's just to let little she eat these breads sooner. Chapter 1197 Yum. Elphilis's teeth sank into the crispy and soft golden creamy bread, with a face full of happiness. Leaving the familiar White Lotus Sword domain, Elphilis ventured alone into the unfamiliar world of Sia, without any help from the outside. She was able to endure all of this. The only thing she couldn't bear was not being able to eat her beloved little she's bread anymore. It was a cruel torture. Who would have thought that just when she had given up hope and focused on building the Babylon Sky Tower, the kingdom's shield would bring her such an unexpected surprise. She had already eaten a piece of creamy golden bread that would have satisfied any lady, so why wouldn't her hand listen? Stop, stop. If she continued like this, she could never become a knowledgeable and well-mannered young lady. The golden, fragrant bread with its creamy aroma seemed to have a magical power. Elphilis couldn't help but reach out her little hand, and then she let out a sigh of delight. Sob, sob. This isn't right. Why was her body obedient even though her heart was rejecting it? Luckily, her beloved little she wasn't here. If he saw her being so greedy, her gentle and refined image as a jeweller's daughter would completely crumble. So adorable. Yunshi looked at Elphilis, lost in the joy of eating the golden bread he had made himself, and liked her even more. Actually, he didn't always like making bread at first. When learning how to make bread, every step, from selecting the ingredients to baking it just right, requires a lot of focus. Otherwise, the final product will have flaws. When he was little, he was just like any other ordinary child. He naturally loved being active and playing hero games with his friends, rather than making bread or anything like that. So, when exactly did he stop playing those childish hero games? Well, when he thinks back, it seems that it was when Hua Hua, the big demon king, suddenly appeared and defeated a group of boys who aspired to become heroes. She then publicly declared that Yunshi belonged to her. After learning a harsh lesson in reality, none of his friends dreamed of being heroes anymore. Yunshi wasn't actually abused by Hua Hua, but the power difference between him and Hua Hua meant that there was no need for him to personally try. After that, he understood that he wouldn't become a hero and decided to honestly inherit his family's bakery. Making delicious bread with his own hands to share with his childhood friends, seeing the satisfaction on their faces, Yunshi discovered a new joy. Compared to fighting and killing, World peace is definitely better. Originally, this small town didn't need any fighting professions, as all dangerous monsters were kept outside the wilderness area by a 50-meter-high wall. This is also a characteristic of the majority of mortal worlds in Endless God's Domain. It's not known where it originated, but God's Domain is divided into the Mortal Zone, the Wilderness Zone, and the True Elite Zone, as if it has become a common structure. Most mortals will never come into contact with the hero-ranked world. They can live their whole lives peacefully in the mortal world and even have the opportunity to travel to the star domain through the star bridge that only leads to the mortal world, living their lives without worries. However, that is only the appearance in the peaceful environment of Endless God's Domain. Once certain disasters or human catastrophes occur beyond the control of the rulers of God's Domain, the mortal world will suffer devastating blows. Mortals ranked third, the elites at the pinnacle of the mortal field, also enjoy this situation. Only those discovered during the annual selection who have the potential to surpass the mortal rank will be sent to the true elite zone. In terms of numbers, the intelligent beings in the elite zone may not even make up 1% of the mortal world, but this is actually the place that truly determines the fate of the world. For species that don't follow the civilized system, there are extensive wilderness areas designated. In fact, the wilderness area is often the largest mysterious area in the various gods' domains, where there are often monsters with such powerful strength that they cannot be restrained. Only a few powerful civilizations, known as God's Domain, have the ability to conquer and transform the wilderness area, turning the entire God's Domain into a cradle of civilization. On the other hand, the whole God's Domain is a natural environment, inhabited by various powerful creatures. The Eastern God's Domain, especially the mysterious Kunlun God's Domain, represents this. Before leaving the town, the bakery was Yunshi's whole world and his childhood friend could potentially be his future spouse. Until one day, when the brilliance of the stars fell, Yunshi discovered that he suddenly had 4 terrifying ex-girlfriends and his life was now counting down. There are too many tears, better not talk about it. Compared to being chased and having his ex-girlfriend's curses hanging over him, to the point where he doesn't even dare to admit his childhood friend, Yunshi wishes to go back in time, to the leisurely days spent with Ilphyllis. Those good days are gone and will never return. At least, now he can happily watch her enjoy the cute expressions on her face as she eats the golden cream bread he made with his own hands. This is the happiest time for Yunshi after becoming an advanced hero-ranked baker. If possible, he really hopes this afternoon tea time can last longer. Awu. Ilphyllis could feel Yunshi's gaze, filled with a bit of curiosity and admiration, like the loving look one gives to their first love. I'm sorry, you're still too young, we're not a good match. Ilphyllis had prepared her response for when Yunshi confessed. The problem was, he didn't say those 4 words, I like you. He just looked at her with gentle eyes, leaving Ilphyllis completely unsure of what to do. What should she do with the kindness card that she had prepared but couldn't give out? Awu. Caught in her dilemma, Ilphyllis absent-mindedly reached out her small, white hand and picked up the 3rd piece of golden cream bread. Valued at 120 crystals, this 4th-tier bread would be enough to buy a garden mansion in the bustling city center of Endless God's Domain. It became an extravagant dessert for Miss Ilphyllis to release her stress in the 10 Leaves Alliance. By the time Ilphyllis noticed something was wrong, the 3rd garden mansion was already gone. Oh, it's just too delicious. Ilphyllis, looking at the curious silver dragon, wished she could just disappear into the ground right now. Why couldn't she control her own hands? And this mouth, tearing, don't want this greedy mouth anymore. This hand too, want to chop it. Chapter 1198. With the arrival of Ludwig XII, the most powerful military nation on the continent, as the turning point, representatives of the other countries on the Sia continent gradually arrived at the central mountains of the continent with their elite armies. Hey-ha! Riding a large number of black saber-toothed tigers, carrying rare weapons resembling boomerangs, with handsome and powerful men or women, they are the wilderness rangers of the Northern Alliance. They excel at taming the saber-toothed tigers roaming in the wilderness forest, growing up and running in the wild with their own saber-toothed tigers. They are one of the few super-elite forces of the Northern Alliance. In terms of mobility, They even surpass the magic armor of the Leviathan Empire. A guerrilla unit composed of a large number of wilderness rangers was once one of the top 3 special forces on the entire continent. Boom rumble. The massive war elephant stomped around, representing the forces from the southern continent. They had a different battle system compared to the old continent, as representatives of the new continent. The heavily armored elephant soldiers were a unique type of troops from the southern continent. Their strength was comparable to that of ogres. The war elephants charged fearlessly into battle, believing in sacrifice for their cause. They were a special type of soldiers exclusive to the southern continent. The various long-range weapons mounted on the war elephants were war tools specially developed by the southern continent. Before the magic armor unit of the Leviathan Empire appeared, they were recognized as the world's first land force. Besides the difficult training of armored war elephants, the heavy armored war elephant corps surpassed the knight orders of the old continent in all aspects. However, due to the long sea distance separating the 2 continents, there had never been a battle between the 2 knight orders. Lastly, there were the Black Crusaders from the West Continent. These heavily armed knights were mostly descendants of the noble class from the Old Continent who had ventured to the New Continent during the Divine Era, and they had formed a certain religion during their colonization journey. With the Black Cross as their symbol, they gathered around a few priests dressed in black robes, their faces expressionless. These priests were actually inheritors of the ancient warlock bloodline, but they now referred to their spells as divine magic, signifying that it was a gift from the gods. Among the 3 known continents inhabited by humans, the Sia continent dominated the world as the largest in size and with the highest population, undoubtedly occupying the center of the entire world. The southern continent and western continent together make up about 1/3 the size of Sia continent. According to historical research, they all split from Sia continent. The reason can be traced back to the giants, who were causing trouble for no reason at all. They had a war that caused the continents to drift, splitting Sia continent into 3 pieces. It was because of the trouble caused by the giants that the dragon clan, who lived at the top of the world, couldn't tolerate it anymore and finally destroyed the greatest source of unrest in the world. Unlike the regular human soldiers from Sia continent, the human armies from other continents have some mixed bloodlines from different races. However, most of them have integrated with humans, with only a small part of their bodies still bearing traces of monsters. Compared to the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order of Sia Kingdom, these armies from the new continents were even more surprised. Not long ago, when Queen Sia established the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, merchants from both continents also bought qualified girls from their own continents and sent them over. However, due to the long distance, there weren't many merchants who were able to achieve this feat in the entire Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. There were less than 10 girls from other continents, and most of them had no connection to their birth countries. For the countries of these new continents, since they sold these girls, they naturally had no relationship with their own countries anymore. So when the commanders of these new continent armies saw the diverse mix of races in the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, they were even more surprised than the people of Sia continent. They knew how much controversy and bloodshed there had been to incorporate mixed blood breeds into their army, and even now there are signs of unrest in the army. All of this doesn't exist in the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. All members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, infused with the divine energy of the Holy Silver Dragon, instinctively have a sense of identity that transcends race and background. Many girls were initially sent to the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order by their families as pawns to spy on the secret of the Sia Kingdom's divine artifacts. These noble families and even the king were eager to know what secrets were hidden in the ancient Divine Era Tower. At first, these girls hesitated to provide information about the Divine Era Tower that their families had sent, and Ain showed no intention of stopping them. However, the chiefs of these families soon realized that there was no regret medicine in this world. The girls who were sent to the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order betrayed, one by one. Well, it may be inappropriate to describe it as betrayal, but they sincerely joined the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. The information about the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order will still be sent, but every word and sentence is filled with pride, confidence, and dreams of a beautiful future. Prince Ash is so pretty. Today, I ate the most delicious bread in the world. Father, you can't even imagine how it tasted. If I can't eat bread from the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order in the future, I will die. Dad, let my little sister join the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order too. Her talent is even higher than mine, and she can surpass me quickly. I guess she has at least 50 seconds of talent. Great leader, thank you for adopting me, who came from a poor background. This is my gratitude. I don't want to go back to the organization anymore. In the past, I had no choice, but now I want to be a good girl and become an outstanding knight of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Many forces who bear ill intentions towards the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order were left dumbfounded by the confident and happy information that was twisted in some unknown way. Why does it feel like someone kicked a dog to see meat-filled buns? Why did these girls change so quickly? They are just like daughters who can't come back home once they get married. There were some people who wanted to fight against the girls who seemed to have betrayed their own power, but when facing the Leviathan faction led by Saramanda, Meros, and Heidi who had advanced to the hero-ranked level, all organizations were too scared to do anything. It's not good to be scared, but this is a time when the magic power is declining. Even the Leviathan Empire, which has hero-ranked knights, only has a dozen or so. 3 hero-ranked monsters, an invincible troll, a Lamia priestess with a magic eye, and the princess of the mermaid clan all came together. Every organization had to tremble. They couldn't win the fight, so they had to surrender. They weren't knights from the divine era, and no one wanted to fight against monsters of that rank. Chapter 1199. In this way, the girls who originally belonged to different powers and had different tasks when entering the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order gradually came together as a team. With a strange divine artifact at its center, along with some kind of unusual emotions that could barely be described, the entire Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order was growing at a speed that humans in this era could not understand. And now, their powers were slowly starting to show in front of the people of this world. Karka, long time no see. Ninny, are you doing well in that Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order? In the Northern Alliance's Wild Ranger Troop, many elite warriors from the north curiously looked at the 2 girls who seemed almost completely transformed. They are the representatives of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order and the Northern Alliance, known as the Wilderness Brides. They recently left the wilderness area and officially joined the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. In a way, they were actually sold by the Wild Ranger Troop. Due to the harsh environment, even though they were daughters of chieftains, they were still young and every chieftain had many daughters. Eventually, they were sold by the Alliance to wealthy merchants for a large sum of money. Of course, it wouldn't be called sold, but rather a negotiation. The currency used in Sia's world was not very appealing to the Northern Alliance. In exchange, they received a large number of sturdy livestock, including cold-resistant long-haired cows and sheep capable of weaving wool blankets. For the people of the Northern Alliance, these livestock were the most valuable assets. Since they were sold, it's like they have been married off and there is no intention for them to come back, as far as the Northern Alliance is concerned. Unlike the prosperous Sia Kingdom and Leviathan Empire, the Northern Alliance has limited resources and can only focus on cultivating their own elite troops. Inheriting the bloodline of fierce warriors, every one of them is a born big eater. Their father was worried about not being able to support them, but then a merchant from the Sia Kingdom came and offered a large sum of money to buy them, and it was a perfect match. The girls themselves didn't really object to this transaction. After all, the requirement to join the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is that it must be voluntary and without any use of force. They exchanged themselves for livestock that could feed the tribe's children, so the wilderness brides were mentally prepared to not return home. No one expected that just over a month later, the wilderness bride who had already been married would reunite with her family. "Oh, everyone is doing well, we're doing great," said Ninny, wearing a brand new fur coat, which is a treasure that only the highest-ranking elders in the tribe can wear. "Here, the weapons are good, and the food is delicious." Karka vigorously waved the large hunting spear she had just finished making. Underneath the Divine Era Tower's lake, there are not only perfect gemstones, but also a large amount of minerals that have been purified by the magical influence of the Divine Era Tower, making them the best in the whole world of Sia. With Ain's permission, a few members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order who own ironworking businesses started helping their fellow members to create well-crafted weapons using these high-quality minerals. The weapons of Nini, Kaka, and the entire Wilderness Bride group are all newly acquired. Not only do they perfectly suit their preferences, but their quality is also incredibly impressive. Moreover, when Ain allowed the creation of these weapons, she used the water from the underground palace's grand bath. By mixing the water infused with the spiritual energy of the dragons and the essence of all members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, the quenching process for weapon creation produced unbelievable results. Each weapon crafted in this way carries the familiar essence of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order and becomes a weapon only they can use. These high-quality weapons emit a faint glow even during the day. Even those who know nothing about weapons can tell that they are extraordinary. For the wilderness adventurers, a good weapon is like half of their life. When they see the glow of the weapons owned by Nini and Kaka, their eyes widen in astonishment. They had never heard of such treatment when joining the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. If Ain used these weapons to recruit people instead of relying on the mysterious Divine Era magic, there would probably be many more people wanting to join the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. That's definitely the case for the Northern Alliance. The Northern Alliance is a loose but powerful alliance that relies on nomadic and fishing livelihoods. Due to a lack of skilled craftsmen, even though they always find high-quality minerals, they can only sell them at a low price to merchants from the south. It's extremely difficult to get a good weapon. Many of the large boomerang weapons used by the Wilderness Rangers have been passed down through generations. Each inheritor of a boomerang vows to treat it as their most important treasure, even placing it above their own wife. Now, as the Wilderness Rangers look at the heavy spears behind Nini and Kaka, their mouths water, just like a reckless youth seeing a breathtaking beauty for the first time. How many animals would it take to trade for a weapon of this level? Look at the radiance and the sharpness of the diamond spearhead, as if it could easily pierce through an enemy's bones. And the entire shaft of the spear is made of metal. It's extravagant, too extravagant. The same amount of metal could be used to create 10 spearheads like this. The shaft could have been made of readily available white waxwood, which is both flexible and abundant. It has always been a standard for the Northern Alliance. Carrying this god weapon on one's back would surely bring pure delight, even when sleeping. They haven't seen weapons of this quality before, except for the tribal chief, and only the tribal chief of a large tribe would have one or two of these genuine god-level weapons. These weapons are symbols of the big tribes, with each one tracing back to legends from the Divine Era, making them eligible to be promoted to god weapons, ancestral totem. A tribe may lose all its cattle, sheep, and territory, and be left in hardship, but as long as the ancestral totem weapon remains, there is still a chance for a comeback. On the other hand, no matter how many pastures, cattle, or tribespeople you have, if the tribe doesn't possess an ancestral totem-level weapon, you cannot rightfully claim to be a major tribe. In times like these, tribes on the rise often form alliances with small tribes that possess ancestral totem weapons, benefiting both sides. Nini and Kaka's tribe, not being a major tribe of the Northern Alliance, doesn't have a single ancestral totem weapon. Chapter 1200 Highly skilled craftsmen are treasures for any country and are treated with great respect. No matter how good the offer from the tribal alliance, they would not choose to live in the harsh and cold wilderness of the north. Even daring merchants may smuggle some high-quality weapons to the Northern Alliance, but the weapons of higher quality, each bearing the nation's imprint, would never end up in the hands of merchants. The ancestral totem weapon inherited from the Divine Era is the highest-level weapon that the tribes living in the northern wilderness can possess. As for things like god weapons, those are all legends of the Divine Era. In this period of magic-tide decline, heroes who can wield the power of god weapons basically don't exist. Even the king of the mighty Seer Kingdom, Ain's father, who died in battle, didn't possess his own god weapon. In the history of Seer's world, there are only 20 recorded god weapons. 12 of them are constellation gods' weapons, which means that in the entire history of Seer's world, besides the 12 constellation gods' weapons, there have only been 8 other god weapons that were later born. These god weapons, having gone through a long time and countless people's belief and praises during the Divine Era, and influenced by the magic environment of the Divine Era, finally completed their advancement. After the end of the Divine Era, there have been no new god weapons appearing, and most of the previously born god weapons can only be regarded as spiritual totems stored in the treasure vault, with symbolic meaning far greater than practical meaning. Elphilis gave all 8 constellation gods' weapons to Yunshi as a price for their alliance. These collectibles have little significance in conquering the world, which is also one of the reasons. In the period of magic tide decline, even the legendary god weapons cannot be inherited by anyone. In comparison, these weapons called ancestral totems are not considered god weapons, but they are highly valued in practical combat. They are the preferred weapons of the strongest heroes in this world. Compared to already advanced god weapons, these ancestral totem weapons, which are in the stage of faith gathering, have the potential to make them famous as heroes. If these ancestral totem weapons can take the final step in their hands, they will become fully compatible god weapons for themselves, although that is a miracle with an almost zero probability. It's not difficult to understand why the wanderers of the wilderness are so envious of the weapons behind Nini and Karka. These are the embryos of future god weapons, and they are enough to become treasures passed down through generations by a large clan. Yet, they are carried so casually on their backs. Moreover, from their natural and perfect alignment with these weapons, it is evident that these weapons are tailor-made for them. The Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is willing to invest so much and use such precious metals to create weapons of this level for them. The value of this weapon alone is enough to buy 10 daughters of chieftains like them. The bloodline of a berserker is not rare for the tribes of the wilderness. In fact, awakening this bloodline often causes great concern for the tribes. The brave warrior-to-be, a man, worked hard to provide enough food for the future. He wanted to become the leader of the warriors. The women of the tribe were expected to get married and become someone else's wife in the future. So, it didn't make sense to spend a lot of money on training them to become warriors. Even if they were the chief's daughters, they couldn't have enough food. Just surviving without starving was already considered a good thing for the tribe. Once they grew up, they would become wilderness brides. This title sounded nice, but in reality, it meant they would be abandoned in the wilderness. The strongest among them would overcome various difficulties and join the ranks of the wilderness adventurers to prove themselves. The requirement to join the wilderness adventurers was to tame a saber-toothed tiger and show that you were strong in the wilderness. Most of them quietly disappeared into the wilderness. No one knew what happened to them, nor did anyone want to know. The wilderness, where there was a scarcity of food, was so cold-hearted. Joining the human knight order came with the luxurious ancestral totem weapons. It seemed even more abundant than in the wilderness. This was completely different from the style of the wilderness tribe. Karka, come and play a game. Soon, someone started challenging the leader of the wilderness bride, who was recruited by the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Karka, one of the future members that the wilderness adventurer had anticipated. Coming from a medium-sized tribe, Karka showed exceptional fighting talent from a young age and was considered an excellent wilderness bride in the making. If it weren't for meeting the human merchant caravan with a large group of cattle and sheep before turning 16, she would have completed the wilderness trial a year later and become one of the squad leaders of the current wilderness adventurer team. The one now challenging Karka is her sister, who is also a wilderness bride from the same tribe and is now the captain of the wilderness adventurer team. The two sisters have an age difference of about 8 years, thanks to their strong and robust father. Their oldest sister is almost 40, the youngest sister is only 6, and they even have a new sister who hasn't been born yet. Men with strong bloodlines naturally have the power to marry and have offspring with more women. This is a recognized truth among the tribes living in the wilderness. Okay, sister. Karka nodded and took off the fur, which symbolized her identity, and was a bit out of season. This fur coat is the proof of her being the leader of the wilderness bride group. It is made of extremely precious polar bear skin and is 1 level higher than the one Nini is wearing. Because the snow bear lives in a remote icy land where humans rarely go, and it is one of the few magical creatures that can use extraordinary powers during the period of magic decline, its fur is highly valuable in the entire northern wilderness area. Similar to the ancestral totem weapon, only the chiefs of the largest tribes or the few highly respected elders in the wilderness can wear this fur, which can be passed down for several generations. The snow bear fur is a symbol of status in the northern region due to its warming effect. It is both practical and magnificent. The fur that Karka is wearing is one of the collections from the Divine Era Tower. She obtained it as a reward after ranking in the top 10 in the unique trials of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. At the time, she was allowed to enter the Divine Era Tower warehouse to choose her reward. At first sight, she saw this high-quality snow bear skin and personally made it into this coat. The wilderness brides are so versatile that they can survive even in the harshest conditions. Because if they didn't know these things, they would have to undergo the wilderness trials alone and would die. Well, it looks like you've eaten well. The older sister looked at the increasingly plump chest of her younger sister and nodded with joy. Having a large chest is the perfect proof of being a wilderness bride, symbolizing that they have overcome the harsh wilderness and become girls blessed by the wild. Chapter 1201. To measure the combat power of the wilderness bride, you can basically tell just by the size of her chest. This is not a talent like the witches in Witch God's domain, where the bigger the chest, the greater the magical power. It is simply a result of natural selection. A wilderness bride with a large chest proves that she can hunt enough food during the wilderness trial, allowing her body to develop well. It is also beneficial to have a large amount of fat reserves in the wilderness environment. The bloodline of the Berserker gives wilderness brides extraordinary recovery ability, and they need more food than ordinary people. Eating well and having a healthy chest is the symbol for wilderness brides to prove themselves. By proving themselves as wilderness brides, they are also known as Pearls of the Wilderness. Their status has risen from being a burden sent to the wilderness by the tribe to becoming respected warriors. The current Karka and Ninny, by the standards of the Northern Alliance, have large chests, tall figures, and come with a generous dowry. They are the desired marriage partners for any tribal warriors. As Karka's sister, Kallian, the captain of the Wilderness Ranger Detachment invited to the underground cemetery gathering, is naturally very happy to see her sister's growth. She is only 24 years old this year, which is 8 years older than Karka. In a way, she is almost like her half-mother. Even though they are half-sisters with the same father, she has always seen Karka as her successor and has been working hard to train her since they were young. She often hides a small portion of the dried meat she hunted in the wilderness. At night, she rides her saber-toothed tiger and secretly delivers it to her sister's tent. Like Karka, she awakened the bloodline of a fierce warrior at an early age. She never truly had a full meal during her teenage years. It was only after entering the wilderness and experiencing many cruel trials, sacrificing her own eye, did she grow into a qualified wilderness bride and step by step become the captain of the Wilderness Ranger Corps. Because she knew how terrible hunger can be, she hoped that Karka could have a better life than her and have enough strength before officially entering the wilderness. No one would have imagined that Karka and Ninny would be noticed by merchants from the Kingdom of Sia and directly bought and sent to the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Officially, these daughters of chieftains represent the Northern Tribal Alliance joining the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order and pledge their loyalty to Queen Sia. In reality, these girls who awakened the bloodline of fierce warriors were mostly abandoned by their respective tribes. As the so-called wilderness brides, they were sacrifices offered by their tribes to the wilderness. If they can complete the trials of the wilderness and prove themselves to be favored by the wilderness, it would be a glory for their tribe. If they disappear in the wild, the people of the tribe wouldn't be too sad. Born in the wilderness, passing away in the wilderness, it is the fate of the people living in this harsh land. However, no one ever expected that their fate would be changed by a person, a knight's order that had never appeared in this world before. Come, let me see how much you've grown. As the youngest captain of the Wilderness Ranger Corps, Kallian, who shares the same fierce warrior blood as Karka, and whose chest is slightly smaller than Karka's, held the exclusive weapon of the Wilderness Ranger Corps, the Moonblade. This large boomerang has a complex transforming structure and is the only Divine Era standard weapon inherited by the Northern Tribal region. Each one can be traced back to that glorious era and is the pinnacle of cold weapon research in the Divine Era. At first glance, it just looks like an enlarged boomerang structure, but in reality, it is completely different. This is a weapon that can be disassembled. When the circular moonblade is taken apart, it becomes a pair of melee double blades. When combined together, It becomes a long-range weapon that can be thrown and automatically returns. The metal used to make these moonblades is a masterpiece from the Divine era. The successors have lost the blueprints and tools to make these weapons, so they can only repair them and cannot reproduce these standard weapons from the Divine era. Each moonblade is an important asset registered by the Northern Alliance, and the number of direct line troops of the Wilderness Rangers is equal to the number of existing moonblades. To be frank, the importance of the moonblade, for most of the Wilderness Rangers, is truly more important than their own lives. Many wilderness wanderers remain unmarried for life, and the legacy of the moonblade is everything to them. The moonblade, passed down from generation to generation, is the pride of all wilderness wanderers. These moonblades have never let the wanderers down and are fearsome assassination weapons in the era of cold weapons. Remote attack in boomerang mode. Close combat in dual-blade slaughter mode. With the high mobility and explosive power of the saber-toothed tiger, as well as the special ability to march at night, as long as they don't confront heavily armored cavalry on the Great Plains, no legion on the continent can withstand the night raid of the wilderness wanderers. Until the appearance of magic armor, the myth of the wilderness wanderer army came to an end. Even so, for forces without magic armor, the teams formed by the wilderness wanderers are still deadly weapons, having completely crushed Leviathan Empire's logistical forces more than once, leaving the powerful magic armor isolated and eventually surrounded and annihilated. I'm here. There is no mercy in the battles between sisters. Riding on her saber-toothed tiger companion, Callian charged directly towards Karka, who had removed her polar bear coat, revealing her graceful figure. The moon blade switched to close combat mode, emitting a cold reflection in the sunlight, faintly showing traces of dark red. That was the mark of killings left by the elite moonblade, a symbol of the blood remaining from the targets hunted by this powerful sword. Karka held onto his spear, facing the charging moonblade knight, as steady as an unmoving mountain. As a representative of the Wilderness Bride group in the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, Karka was very silent and reserved, compared to the enthusiastic Ninny, who was as vibrant as an icy mountain in the north. However, she was strong, the strongest among all members of the Wilderness Bride group. Faced with the impact released by the divine artifact, she always managed to endure till the very end. Even if her snow-white face turned pink due to the intense stimulation, her eyes were still radiant. The trait of the dragon's spiritual energy growing stronger in the face of resistance made the patient and enduring Ice Mountain girl even stronger. Even though she had never won a single time, the benefits she gained each time she gritted her teeth and persevered were the most among the entire Wilderness Bride group. At this moment, standing before the former tribe's most outstanding Wilderness Bride, the target she had once admired, Karka held his spear with utmost stability, like a bowl of water that wouldn't create any ripples even if something was placed upon it. Chapter 1202 The charge of the saber-toothed tiger was entirely different from the grandeur of the war elephant. With their furry paws that have special cushioning, as well as their ability to sneak like meat-eating animals, saber-toothed tigers can sprint silently. This is one of the reasons why the Wilderness Rangers became the most outstanding assassination unit on the continent. Often, it's only after the saber-toothed tigers charge into the camp and start killing that the attacked army realizes their presence. Unlike war horses that can only charge in a straight line, different from war elephants, saber-toothed tigers can change direction while running at high speeds. They can even leap over 3-meter-tall fences and walls and run on the upper floors of buildings, almost ignoring any obstacles on the terrain. With extremely high mobility, agile and explosive bodies, and apart from having a big appetite and a fierce temperament, saber-toothed tigers are perfect as human mounts. The only problem is the high difficulty of taming saber-toothed tigers. These proud creatures automatically go to the wilderness to find a mate during their annual mating season before returning after mating. It is impossible to raise a saber-toothed tiger cub and wait for it to grow up. It takes over 30 years to raise one, and the amount of food required is astonishing. These massive feline creatures have a lifespan of over 100 years, living longer than most wilderness rangers. Humans, even the most outstanding wilderness rangers, have a limited period of strength and power, known as the golden period, which ranges from 18 to 45 years old. After that, they must retire. This is a limitation of the human race itself. A saber-toothed tiger can live for up to 150 years, showing signs of weakness only in the last 10 years. They often accompany more than 5 generations of wilderness rangers. Many of the saber-toothed tigers currently in service are from the great-grandfather generation of their owners. This is not difficult to understand. The wilderness bride joined the trials of the wilderness rangers by taming a saber-toothed tiger. Taming a saber-toothed tiger is the highest proof of her own strength. The saber-toothed tiger tamed by Karka's sister Callian is much stronger and more powerful than others. It is a young saber-toothed tiger that has only been in its youth for a few years, which is the most fierce and aggressive period. This mighty saber-toothed tiger made Callian lose an eye, but it also earned her the respect of the entire wilderness rangers. She became a team captain almost as soon as she joined the team, and was soon promoted to a squad captain. She has already been nominated to be the next vice captain. Among the wilderness rangers who came to the underground cemetery this time, she is one of the top 3 experts. The top 2 are the hero-ranked rangers from the northern tribes, who are almost 100 years old and are living legends. It can be said that below the hero-ranked rangers, Callian is recognized as the top expert of the wilderness rangers, all because of her saber-toothed tiger mount. However, Callian has a very puzzled feeling this time. It seems that when her companion starts to sprint, it is far from the smoothness and fierceness as usual. As a comrade in arms fighting side by side, she knows the speed and rhythm of her saber-toothed tiger's sprint very well, but this time the charge has not been smooth from the beginning. What appears to others as a fast and agile charge, the rhythm was actually chaotic right from the start. Holding the moon blade, Callian gently poked the tiger's belly, a friendly gesture to ask what was wrong with their companion. In response, the tiger trembled and tensed up in distress. It felt like encountering a monstrous creature, an archenemy. Impossible, Callian frowned. The tiger was the ruler at the top of the food chain in the wilderness. Even the occasional polar bear that emerged from the icy lands couldn't outrun the tiger, despite the tiger being physically weaker than this extraordinary monster. With its ability to run at high speeds in any terrain, the tiger was inherently unbeatable and truly the ruler of the wild. To defeat the tiger, even the wilderness bride with her warrior bloodline would need to pay a great price and a bit of luck. She had tamed her companion at the cost of an eye, trapping it in an inescapable trap and spending 7 days and nights to earn its respect and establish a bloodline bond. At this moment, the tiger's unnatural trembling seemed to convey to its comrade that there was an unbeatable monster over there. The monster, who is her sister, recently left the wild land and was sold to Karka in the Seer Kingdom. Just as they spoke, the saber-toothed tiger reached its highest speed and Callian instinctively swung her moon blade sideways towards Karka. Karka took a deep breath and let out a roar that no human could make. It was a roar that shook the earth. It was a chilling presence that shattered the opponent's soul. It was a sound that made the wilderness travelers and their saber-toothed tiger companions, who were hundreds of meters away, explode and almost stop their heartbeat. Callian's mount, being at the forefront, immediately slowed down, rolling uncontrollably, completely losing control of its body. Twitching, panic. It was the instinctual memory of all beasts living in Seer's world towards the bloodline of the ruler at the top of the world pyramid, an inheritance that cannot disappear no matter how many generations pass. In the divine era, any powerful beast was food in front of that race. Saber-tooth tiger, polar bear, python, war elephant, antelope. In a world where the strong prey on the weak, apart from the giant race, any other race can easily be hunted by that race. The wilderness overlord saber-tooth tiger, compared to that race, is not much stronger than a kitten. The proud speed and explosive power, to the race that dominates the sky, is just a joke. In order to survive, one can only hope that when encountering that race, it is not hungry, so it can play and pretend to be a cute little kitten. Meeting that race and lying down like a small kitten, and exposing its belly, is an unforgettable memory in the bloodline of the saber-tooth tiger clan. At first, the aura on Karka wasn't very obvious, but when she made her move and truly unleashed her war cry, that memory engraved in her bloodline suddenly awakened in all the saber-tooth tigers, including the young and spirited one under Callian. Among them, of course, included the young and spirited saber-tooth tiger under Callian. With Karka's roar, the saber-toothed tiger that had been sprinting at high speed just moments ago was directly shaken away, rolling several rounds consecutively. Callian, who jumped away at the critical moment, looked in astonishment at her unruly comrade in arms rolling on its back with all four paws up in the air, unable to understand what had happened. Chapter 1203. More than just Callian's close comrades were scared and crouched down by Karka's shout. As one of the girls with the highest affinity with a certain silver dragon in the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, the slight aura of dragons released by Karka directly paralyzed half of the Wild Ranger's saber-toothed tiger mounts. If this were a battlefield where both sides fought to the death, this shout would have disabled half of the continent's strongest assassination force. Before Callian could react, Karka had already swung her spear and launched a fierce attack towards her sister. Defensive is not a concept in the dictionary of a berserker's bloodline. None of the Wild Rangers wore steel armor, they loved armor made from the skins of various beasts. In order to improve the maneuverability of their saber-toothed tigers, they didn't even wear underwear. It is said that the most primitive Wild Ranger force didn't even need clothes. The pure bloodline of a berserker is its greatest weapon. It is a similar bloodline developed by humans after witnessing the ultimate land forces of the Leviathan faction troll clan. The Wild Warrior's bloodline, unlike the popular communication-type sorcery bloodline, is a masterpiece created by the mags during the Divine Era. The fearless Wild Warrior who unlocks their own bloodline is always at the peak of morale. Even if the opponent is a giant dragon, they will charge forward. Apart from the downside of going berserk, they are considered a perfect ace unit. While the power of magic spells faded during the period of the declining magic tide, the Wild Warrior bloodline, which doesn't rely much on magic, persevered in the northern wilderness according to the law of survival of the fittest. Even though awakening this bloodline requires food 10 times more than a normal person, it is still a worthwhile trade for tribes in need of great strength. Callian and Karka are girls who have fully awakened their Wild Warrior bloodline. As the captain of the Wilderness Ranger unit, Callian's combat experience and skills are overwhelmingly powerful compared to Karka. If they had grown up normally, the three Karkas would not be able to compete with Callian as she is now. The problem is, Karka is anything but normal, or rather, all the girls who have become members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order have long lost any connection to the word normal. Containing the star-hunting dragon Mew Mew Narable, carrying the blessing, curse, of the supreme dragon god Asher, and a supersized magic pool specially prepared for hatching dragon eggs. Every day, the girls of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order bathe in the magical pool with close encounters with mysterious creatures from beyond the stars. They have chosen a path that is different from all the wise beings in this world. Karka is one of the best in the Wilderness Bride group, the strongest among them. She is just one step away from transcending from being an ordinary person to becoming a hero. For humans born during the period of magic tide decline, this step is like crossing a great divide. It requires a lot of resources, luck, and strong bloodline. For Karka, it is as easy as crossing a thin piece of paper. She had the confidence to take that step 3 days ago. She just patiently suppressed the boiling warrior blood within her, not rushing to take that step. This is her intuition. If she follows the boiling bloodline and enters that world, she can naturally become a member of the hero ranked, but that alone is not enough. She needs to have a clearer understanding of her own path, which is the essence of being a hero. This is the advice given to her by Saramanda, who has walked that path before her. The warrior bloodline is the pinnacle of human research on the troll clan, and can be regarded as a degraded and incomplete giant bloodline. When entering the warrior frenzy state, it intensifies the person's physical abilities and makes them lose the ability to feel pain. They display an incredibly wild fighting stance. However, this condition also continuously consumes the warrior's life force. Essentially, this occupation burns life to exchange for combat power. The problem is that humans are not like trolls. Even if their hearts are pierced, they won't die. But if a berserker bleeds too much or gets torn apart, they will die. Humans don't have the gift of immortality. Based on what you have, you should be able to awaken this gift. So it's best to suppress your impulses, maybe that way you can do it. Saramanda made this judgment after thoroughly examining Karka's body. The Berserker lineage is a degraded version of the Troll clan, and the Troll clan's gift of immortality comes from the ancient Earthchild giants. In theory, humans with the Berserker bloodline have a slight chance of regaining a similar gift as Sue's immortality. This opportunity only exists during the transformation from human to a hero-ranked being. It is a fundamental change in life, the most important step from being a mortal to a transcendent world. No matter how powerful a Berserker is, they will get injured if they haven't become hero-ranked. They will die if their heart is pierced, and they can't regenerate lost limbs. However, once someone becomes hero-ranked, anything is possible. A hero-ranked Berserker can almost ignore any damage from ordinary weapons. Being impervious to blades and bullets is just the basic level. Being invincible on the battlefield is achievable. In the era of ancient weapons, a powerful warrior known as a hero-ranked Berserker could determine the outcome of a battle. This was before the existence of magic armor, making them the strongest known war hero among humans. The path that appeared before Karka was the path of these mighty heroes. Instead of choosing this path, she pondered her true essence as a hero and made a decision. Suppressing her own advancement, she controlled the power of her boiling blood. Although the anger within her body was raging, Karka's expression remained calm, and her grip on the spear didn't waver. Whoosh! The sharp spear swung and created a circle of icy light, as if claiming its own territory and repelling anything that approached. Ding! Kalian's dual blades experienced a powerful impact, causing intense deformation. Both the person and the blades were sent flying. Astonished, Kalian looked at his deformed moon blade. This was the Cold Weapon King, symbolizing the pinnacle of Divine-era technology. The difference in weapon quality between the two sides was unexpectedly significant. And, what's the deal with this scary power? Did she unleash all of the Berserker blood in her body? But if she had, she would have already entered a state of uncontrollable bloodlust. Not enough. Karka took a deep breath again. Not reached the limit yet, not seeing her own end. Chapter 1204. This body still has untapped potential. The field that has never been reached before, the realm that only the legendary Berserkers are said to enter, hasn't been reached yet. She needs more excitement. Sister, use your strongest form. Karka raised the spear in her hand, starting to unleash the most terrifying thing within her body. In those eyes, there was burning blood. It seems like you've encountered it too. Shaking her hair, Kalian walked up to her trembling mount, and kicked the belly of the feigning death saber-toothed tiger. Awu! Faced with unimaginable monsters, the saber-toothed tiger could only shrink its limbs in frustration, wearing an expression of "I surrender." Back then, in a desperate situation, Kalian unleashed her Berserker bloodline without any regard, ultimately beating the once dominant saber-toothed tiger to near death. Before reaching the hero rank, unleashing the Berserker bloodline within oneself is an extremely dangerous act, with a reported death rate of over 90%. For wilderness brides who are not yet 18, releasing their Berserker bloodline is basically the same as committing suicide. Even if they defeat their enemies, they will ultimately be buried in the wilderness. Without the talents of the Troll clan, complete Berserk transformation is like seeking death. However, there will always be geniuses who can surpass this common knowledge. Kalian is that kind of genius. After her first release of the Berserker bloodline, she completely mastered this method as a wilderness bride. Karka, who is also a genius, can feel the strength of each other. That's why Kalian decided to challenge her sister first. The Berserker lineage is the most warlike among the human race. How much have you unleashed? From the beginning of the battle, both sides knew that the other had used techniques to unleash their bloodline power, just in different degrees. Currently, it's 90%, just a little more to reach the limit. His eyes showed signs of burning blood, indicating that the Berserker was about to enter a state of uncontrollable rage. Generally, when a normal Berserker unleashes their bloodline power beyond 50%, they enter this state. At around 80%, they go mad and die. However, Karka had already reached the critical point of 90% and still managed to remain calm. Even her appearance still resembled that of an icy and beautiful woman. 80%, you really are bold. Kalian laughed. It had been a long time since Callian had unleashed his berserker power in such a thrilling way. The first time she faced a desperate situation and awakened, she reached an awakened state beyond 70%. In that state, she effortlessly left the saber-toothed tiger half dead. 8 years later, she had already mastered the ability to unleash up to 80% without changing her composure. However, this is not the limit. Whether it's her or her little sister, they both undoubtedly aim to be 100% legendary. It is said that if one can fully grasp the power of their berserker bloodline before reaching hero rank, they can achieve the most perfect form of the berserker bloodline after advancing. That is also known as the extraordinary talent of the Leviathan faction's land ace ogre clan, the Undying Body. For a berserker who unleashes power by burning their life force, there is no better extraordinary talent than this. Well, then let me see. Our 100%. Callian licked her own tongue and took off her eye patch. During the wilderness trial, the eye that was taken by a saber-toothed tiger is now replaced by a gemstone fake eye. Even though it's a fake eye, the pupil contains a substance similar to flowing blood. This is a magical item that Callian recently discovered by chance in a ruin, which perfectly replaces the eye she lost. The more determined she was, the brighter the shining red light emitted by the gemstone eyes became, and the phenomenon of boiling blood became even more intense. It was truly a prop tailored for her. The only side effect was that whenever she used the power of these eyes, she could always hear some inexplicable noise. It sounded like Ada. Ada. Ah, the king. Or something like that, but it didn't matter. As long as it was usable, it was good enough. The berserker bloodline had no magical abilities, but it provided strong resistance against all curses and magic. With her iron-like determination, Callian completely ignored the influence of these noises. Due to the power of using this fake eye, Callian saw a lot of strange black particles. She called this eye Black Lotus. Now was the moment to unleash the power of the Black Lotus. 90%, 91, 92. Karka, holding the spear, gradually touched the limits she had never tried before. No one knew what 100% awakening of the berserker bloodline would be like. Those who could achieve this level in the past were already part of the divine era. The only thing we can be sure of is that since the decline of magic, it has become almost impossible for a berserker to advance to the hero rank. The two heroes of the Wild Ranger squad, even though they have berserker blood, have chosen a different path than that of the berserkers. They have decided to train their own saber-toothed tigers and embark on the wild hunter path together. The pure advancement of the berserker bloodline has long been a legend because it is impossible to reach a higher level of bloodline awakening. However, at this moment, two young girls are challenging this legend, and they are not just following the normal path of berserker advancement but the legendary path that even few berserkers in the divine era were able to complete, 100% bloodline awakening. Hold on, I don't care about any Ada. My body is mine to control. Callian tightly grips the split moonblade, whose blade, initially heavily damaged, is slowly repairing itself. The ability to self-repair is one of the masterpieces of the magical metal from the divine era, but unfortunately, humans have not been able to create such incredible magical metal since the end of the divine era. The Moonblade is a high-quality weapon made from this memory-infused magical metal and represents the pinnacle of cold weapons from the divine era. No risk, no reward. Callian knows that this fake eye she obtained by chance has problems, but she is taking a gamble. She's betting on her ability to control this mysterious magical tool. Ada. Black particles swirl within Callian's fake eye, releasing an aura that doesn't belong to this world. Silver Dragon. The air around Karka was filled with a magical presence, the aura of the divine silver dragon. Without any particular order, both of them surpassed their limits at the same time, completing the awakening of their bloodline to its fullest extent. Chapter 1205. Once again, the Moonblade transformed, revealing a third form that most wilderness rangers had never seen before. It took on the shape of a crescent moon, its blade shimmering with a faint silver glow. This is the ultimate form of the Moonblade, capable of long-range throwing and close-quarter slashing. However, it requires exceptional skill, and only a few elite wilderness rangers can unleash the blade in this form. Moreover, This is a form that can only be used by berserkers once their bloodline is highly awakened. It is a weapon specifically designed to deal with trolls, their ultimate foes. The curved blade appears still, but in reality, it consists of several layers that spin rapidly. Each part, except for the handle, is a terrifying blade capable of instantly slicing through steel. To cut through the incredibly tough muscles and bones of trolls, this level of cutting force is necessary. This circular arc structure cannot last for too long. Once activated, the battle must be resolved within 10 seconds, otherwise the moon blade itself will be damaged, making it a truly deadly ace. The battle determined the winner in just an instant. Time seemed to slow down for a moment. Callian, who had been running, finally threw the moon blade, slicing towards Karka from an incredible angle. Karka gripped his spear with both hands, traced an oval shape, and then thrust it forward. The moon blade flashed. The spear pierced through. One of Karka's arms flew up, blood spurting out. A twisted and deformed moon blade soared into the sky and landed several tens of meters away. On the other side, Callian, who had thrown the moon blade, had her heart pierced by the sharp spear. Her whole body was pinned to the ground, spraying a large amount of blood. 100%, it turns out to be like this. This is 100%. Both of them almost simultaneously said similar words, then one fell down, while the other remained motionless. Victory belonged to Karka, belonged to the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order Knight with stronger power, faster speed, and more terrifying explosive force. Speaking of skills and battle experience, the captain of the Wilderness Ranger Squadron, Callian, naturally excelled. But after being nourished by the aura of the Holy Silver Dragon so many times, Karka's physical qualities have long surpassed her older sister. It was precisely this error that led to Callian's defeat. Her moonblade was blocked by Karka's defense and couldn't unleash the full power of the moon throw move. In contrast, Karka clearly held back, otherwise it wouldn't be piercing the heart, but completely disintegrating Callian. As for why Callian's heart was pierced, it was because it was an opportunity and also a kind of ritual. Karka carefully put his severed arm back in its original position, then bravely used a bandage to wrap it up tightly before finally pulling out the spear that had pierced his sister's heart. Bang! 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 Callian, who had fallen to the ground, suddenly felt her heart violently start beating again, showing no signs of being pierced just moments ago. To die and come back to life was the necessary step for Sue's bloodline to awaken to its full potential. It was also the step that both Karka and Callian were seeking. Originally, both sides were evenly matched and it should have ended in a stalemate, considering they both possessed the full power of Sue's bloodline. Unfortunately, both Karka and Callian had miscalculated. After being nourished by the sacred silver dragon's energy, Karka's body surpassed the normal limits of a berserker with a full-power Sue bloodline. Sister Callian's new moon throw couldn't push Karka to the limit, but it did increase her liberation level from 100% to a theoretical value that doesn't exist, approximately 120%. Don't underestimate this 20% difference. It's like a normal human running the 100-meter dash in around 9 seconds, while you can run it in under 8 seconds. That 1 second difference is almost like the difference between two different species. This battle was a complete defeat for Callian. She lost to her sister, who had a bloodline liberation level of 120%, which doesn't even exist in the history of berserkers. How is it possible that 100% isn't the limit? While holding her racing heart, Callian felt more clearly than ever the direction of her hero's journey. Very close, really close. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say it's just within arm's reach. Even if she closed her eyes, she wouldn't make a wrong turn. She would become a legendary berserker, awakening an undying body like a troll. Even if her heart was pierced, she wouldn't die. It's one of the most obvious signs of an undying body. With a 100% bloodline liberation, resurrecting once after death is the secret advancement of the legendary berserker. She achieved it, which should make her happier than anyone else, but now she is full of confusion and doesn't immediately step into the already opened path of heroes. Because, right in front of her, her beloved younger sister showed another possibility. It turns out that 100% is not the limit of a berserker's bloodline, there is a way to enter a higher field. Now she cannot sit still. As a recognized seed of the Wild Ranger Corps, she has been steadfastly walking the path to becoming a legendary berserker, and she will not allow herself to be weaker than her sister. How did you train? What method can make your berserker bloodline surpass the 100% limit? Callian gleamed at Sue, who was tying her own arms, and then forced her arms to copy Sue's kaka. This method of healing injuries is unique to the human bloodline. Normally, only berserkers who have entered the hero rank possess this ability. Without stepping into the hero rank, but possessing the healing power of a hero, it proves that Kaka's chosen path is even stronger than the path of a legendary berserker. In order to join the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, Kaka thought for a moment and gave an answer. By not accepting the trial of that wonderful divine artifact, one cannot fully unlock the power of such immense strength through normal training. She realized that she might be able to surpass her limits beyond 100%, after spending a month bathing in the magical pool and becoming proficient in the ceremony with the divine artifact. She learned how to attain immortality from her sister, so she didn't hide the secret of her becoming stronger from her. Is it still possible for me to join the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order now? Callian realized for the first time that she seemed to have missed a great opportunity. The fourth batch should recruit members over 18 years old, but the requirements remain the same. Kaka nodded and stated Ain's recruitment requirements. The task of hatching dragon eggs had been completed, and the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order began to expand on a larger scale. After all, the magnificent goal of Lord Silver Dragon is the vast ocean of stars. Chapter 1206. Ain had already achieved the initial purpose of establishing the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Using the unique method of the Divine Era Tower, Ain gathered a large number of underage girls and awakened the sacred silver dragon Yun-Shi from its slumber. The Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order had successfully achieved its goal. However, during this process, Ain discovered that the power of the great Lord Silver Dragon was even stronger than she had imagined. Even the dragon eggs left behind by the awakened Sue possessed a special ability to enhance the human bloodline of this world through the immense dragon's spiritual energy. For a world experiencing a decline in the period of magic tide, this was like a cheat code. In less than a month, Saramanda, Heidi, and Meros all successfully advanced to the hero rank. Even Ain herself awakened a mysterious occupation never before seen in Sia's history, the Silver Star Warlock. The noble families who had sent their daughters had initially treated them as hostages for the most powerful nuclear explosion queen on the continent. Now, the nobles of Sia Kingdom had gone crazy and wanted to send their daughters, even their youngest daughters, to the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. All the inns near the Divine Era Tower were bursting with people. Now joining the selection of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, you have to wait in line. The faceless god defeated the Black Iron Giant, Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, Meros, Saramanda, and Heidi one by one, and the reputation of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order soared. After more than 1,000 members were accepted in the first phase, recruitment for the second and third phases is now in full swing under Ain's guidance. Since the elite members of the first phase have already completed the epic task of hatching dragon eggs, the recruitment for the second and third phases of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order has slightly relaxed its requirements. After all, pure and beautiful flowers under the age of 18 are always limited. Considering that the members who joined the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order in the first phase will naturally grow up, the age requirements will be completely relaxed starting from the fourth phase. Women over 20 years old, or even older, can also join. Of course, the requirement of purity will not change. After all, this is an exclusive knight order prepared for the great and sacred Lord Silver Dragon. The ultimate goal is to become the strongest organization in Sia's world, spanning the stars and seas. In light of this, Saramanda, Meros, and Heidi all stated that there are still many outstanding adult women in their clans who are qualified to join the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Representatives of the Dwarf tribe and other Leviathan factions also expressed that there are many members in their clans who meet the requirements of the first phase but have not come to join the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. With a grand gesture, Ain said, "Come all, the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, with the goal of spanning the stars and seas, will never have enough members." Compared to the vast galaxy where Lord Silver Dragon resides, The elite members of Sia's world's Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order are simply not worth mentioning. In order to secure the future of Sia's world, Ain decided to expand the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order by any means necessary. Karka and Nini ran to join their original team because they received hints from Ain and proudly displayed the newly crafted exclusive weapon on their backs. Within the entire Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, there are only a few knights who have been supplied with weapons of this caliber. It is evident how highly Ain values the Moonblade Rangers from the wilderness. The fourth phase. Your Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order has quite the ambition, Callian said as he pressed down his racing heart, put on his eye mask again, and his cheeks felt slightly warm. At present, she is only a small half-step away from reaching hero-ranked status, and breaking through at any time is not a problem if she is willing. 100% advancement of the Berserker bloodline is the most powerful path of advancement that she knows as a wilderness bride. However, now she doesn't think so anymore. Her sister, the representative from the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, has already shown her a path that surpasses the awakening of the 100% bloodline. If she didn't know about this road before, she would have easily reached the pinnacle of the Berserker's path and completed her advancement without hesitation. But now that she knows about the existence of this road, she will not be satisfied with her current path of advancement. The wilderness brides have never been afraid of danger. The wild warrior blood flowing through their bodies makes them choose not to settle for an ordinary life of marriage and children, even if it means dying in the harsh wilderness. Either they overcome the harsh wilderness and prove themselves to be the chosen ones favored by the wilderness, or they silently disappear into the wilderness. No wilderness bride lives an ordinary life. From the moment they awaken the wild warrior blood within them, they are destined to be extraordinary. Even this cemetery is not our target. What we want is greater. Karka, unusually, revealed the secret of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. This secret can be considered as a secret that all the elite members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order share. Is there a greater goal than this underground cemetery? If it's you, no, if it's us. Callian's eyes gradually brightened. The unique connection between sisters allowed Karka to convey the great ambitions of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order to her sister without saying much. I joined. Callian patted Karka's shoulder, and the two sisters looked up at the sky together. A goal greater than the underground cemetery, which had already conquered the entire world of Sia, doesn't exist on Earth. So, what is it? It is that starry sky that makes the small and humble dwarfs and the immense and invincible dragons of the Sia continent look up with longing and obsession. If we set this as our goal, even the underground cemetery, which seems to have conquered the world, becomes insignificant. Welcome, sister. Having completed Ain's recruiting task, Karka rarely curved her lips into a slight smile, and the icy beauty of the wilderness bride group laughed. On the other side, representing the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, Nini, who is lively and good at singing and dancing, enthusiastically describes the wonderful days in the Order to her companions. You have no idea how well we eat in the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Do you know about bread? Queen Ain and Princess Adley always bring various delicious bread. I swear in the name of my tribe, there is nothing tastier than that in the whole world. Especially those golden, soft, and flaky bread, eating them feels like being in heaven, making your whole body weak. Growl. The wilderness rangers surrounding Nini couldn't help but make beautiful sounds from their throats. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.